Alrighty, welcome back everybody to our latest severe weather live stream. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon or morning so far. Most of us are actually, everybody's in the morning. I don't know why I'm saying afternoon, but today's gonna be a busy day here across the United States. Obviously we have a very large area that we're talking about for severe weather today. There is a moderate risk now for severe weather, and I don't know if the Storm Prediction Center will upgrade any areas to a high risk, but as of right now it is a moderate risk for severe weather. That includes southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, and a large chunk of Oklahoma, and even into North Texas now, which is under a 4 out of 5 severe weather risk. And what that essentially means is that there is at least a high likelihood for numerous to widespread severe weather in this red shaded area, which is where we have the greatest chance for large to very large hail. In addition to that, we're going to be talking about the threat for a tornado outbreak today, which is expected, by the way. It's not really something that is I would say like a possibility. It's more at this point as it's probably going to happen that we're going to see a tornado outbreak today across a large chunk of the central and southern plains, especially in the red shaded areas where we are going to have the chance for several tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center has outlined that there could be some long track tornadoes, EF3 plus even, across this area later today as storms ramp up. Now I do want to mention the greatest threat for severe weather is still hours out. We are not anywhere close to when the greatest threat of severe weather will be here across the central and southern plains. That severe weather threat is not really going to ramp up until later this afternoon, and we are talking about the greatest potential being probably from about 4 o'clock or so, 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all the way until about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight. But we will have a threat of severe weather beginning now all the way through tomorrow night. It is going to be a very long event. Now I do want to mention as well that we're not going to just be talking about this area tomorrow. We are going to be talking about this area mostly today, and then tomorrow that threat will start to shift a bit further over to the east, where there will be a lower risk for severe weather. But today is the big day where there is going to likely be a tornado outbreak across the central and southern plains. Here is the Storm Prediction Center outlined risks for today. Notice that hail risk, that pink area that you can see here, that is going to be a 45% chance within a 25-mile radius of large to very large hail. So this area is going to be very concerning today for the large to very large hail threat. We could see hailstones as high as softball-sized hail, and that could be very damaging. So make sure that you're protecting your vehicles, and also make sure that you're protecting any outdoor plants. And also, if you are under any severe storms today, you should always be staying away from windows, because since the damaging wind potential is also up there, we could see damaging winds and hail at the same time, and that could get driven into windows. So you always want to make sure, if you're under any warning today, that you are staying away from windows. It is a good time, by the way, to make sure that you are protecting your vehicle just in case you do see large hail. And guys, not everybody's going to see hail today, but if you do see hail, it could damage your vehicle, it could damage plants, and it also could damage outdoor patio furniture as well. So you want to make sure that you're taking all those precautions now instead of later today, because you don't want to be doing this stuff last second when you're under a tornado warning or under a severe thunderstorm warning for hail or a tornado or whatever it might be, maybe even damaging winds. Now, with all that being said, make sure you have multiple ways to receive alerts today. Have a tornado action plan in place. It is going to be a very active day. The tornado risk has also been upgraded. Notice we have a 15% probability now within a 25-mile radius of tornadoes across southeast Kansas, back into Oklahoma, and North Texas. Now, I did mention a high risk could not be ruled out in a day like today where we have a very favorable environment for tornadoes. So don't be surprised at the next outlook, which is in about an hour and a half. The next outlook, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some sort of small, like, high risk of severe weather. It can't be ruled out. Now, with that said, there is still some uncertainty. I wouldn't say there's a lot of uncertainty, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty with the storm mode for today. If we have discrete supercells, those will be more of a tornado-driven threat. But if it turns into more of a linear area of storms, I do think that tornado threat will struggle a little bit more. So just keep that in mind. But once again, the greatest tornado threat is going to be anywhere in this yellow and red shaded area where there is going to be a threat for strong tornadoes. Again, not everybody's going to see tornadoes, and by the way, most of us will not see tornadoes, but those that do, they could be potentially catastrophic or damaging. The Storm Prediction Center once again has mentioned that there could be long-tracked EF3 plus tornadoes today, so that's obviously a big concern, and we need to make sure that everybody is staying vigilant today and staying weather aware across the central and southern plains. This could be similar to what we saw yesterday back up in Iowa and Nebraska. I'm not saying it's going to be the same exact thing, but it could very easily be similar to what we saw yesterday back up that direction, where we had a couple of very large tornadoes that ripped across Nebraska and Iowa. It's something that is entirely possible because the setup is not very different from what we saw yesterday. Actually, today we're gonna have more storms, I think, in terms of storm coverage, but that could actually work in the favor of there being less tornadoes if we have a lot more storms that are linear. But again, I'll talk more about that in the timing here in just a second. Here's the damaging wind threat for today. So we do have a hatched area for damaging winds. Today's flying trampoline meter is at a gone forever stage. We've only done this 3 times in our history, but we do have a gone forever flying trampoline meter. Here's your flying trampoline meter here, and this is only the 4th time ever that we've used a risk like this. And it's not just because of the damaging wind threat, but it's a combination of the damaging wind threat and as well as the tornado threat, because either one of those could send your trampoline flying into a power pole, or it could go flying to another person's house. So make sure if you're anywhere in the risk outlined area today that you are hatching down your trampolines, because those could easily go flying here across the Great Plains and even back over in the Midwest, where there is a lower risk for severe weather. That could be a possibility with any storms that do go severe today. So first ever time that we've done that, at least in the last few weeks. The last time we had it gone forever was back when we had that massive MCS back down on the Gulf Coast, and that was back a few weeks ago. So with this, the 2nd time in April that we've done this, and it's only the 4th time in the past year that we've ever done a risk like that. So obviously it's not an official forecast, but you get an idea that there are going to be some really significant storms today with damaging winds and as well as tornadoes. Alrighty, let's go through the timing and give you an idea of hour by hour what we're talking about today, and we'll kind of go through some of the threat stuff. And also, I will be answering a lot of questions in this live stream. Just an FYI, this is mostly going to be a severe weather update stream. There will probably be some tornado coverage in this stream. It's just probably not going to happen for at least another hour or so. We do have storms that are already firing up, and we already have a tornado watch, but overall, the risk is really going to increase more after lunchtime today. So just keep that in mind. That's when the greatest concern would be anywhere really from about 2 o'clock or so, and then all the way through about probably 10 o'clock. That'll be like the main time frame for today. All right, let's go through the future radar. So around 10 o'clock this morning, which is right about now, we got storms ongoing across western Oklahoma. That's pretty much a given at this point. This convection will continue throughout the rest of the morning into the early afternoon. This is not going to be really significant. We might see a couple of tornadoes, but it's not going to be the greatest concern. Once we get closer to about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that is when a lot more discrete supercells fire up, and that is when a significant tornado threat will really start to ramp up across both southern parts of Kansas and as well as back through western Oklahoma. This entire area is where we are going to have multiple discrete supercells, and any storm that is discrete will have an elevated tornado risk. So definitely make sure if you're in this area that you are staying very vigilant. And here we go. This is about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Again, notice we'll have plenty of discrete supercells out there. And once again, we're going to have a lot more storms than yesterday. So if these storms are a bit more clustered together and combined, meaning a bit more linear, that tornado threat could be a bit lower than forecasted. But with that being said, if these storms are all discrete or very close to being discrete, the tornado threat will definitely be right around where it's forecasted today. If not, it could even be higher than that here across much of Oklahoma, right around 4. Here's 5 o'clock, so storms continue right near that dry line stretching from central Texas back over into southern Kansas. We will also have a couple of storms back over in northern Missouri and northern parts of Kansas, even southern Nebraska, which could also produce the threat of a tornado. So keep that in mind. This is another corridor that has not really been talked about a whole lot, but we'll also be watching for tornadoes there later today. Once we get closer to 6 to 7 o'clock, these storms continue to march to the east. We'll have multiple storms rotating, multiple chances for tornadoes embedded in this area of storms around 7 tonight. By around 8 to 9 o'clock, storms continue to march east with embedded tornadoes, and we already have a tornado warning today. Wow. I was trying to get through this forecast, but I guess we have to go to this tornado warning first. We have a tornado warning already in western Oklahoma, and it's pretty early in the day for this, but obviously this area is under a tornado watch. So if you're in this tornado warning, seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible. This is for Roger Mills County and Dewey County in Oklahoma. Today is going to be a long day, all I've got to say. This is not a storm that has really strong rotation yet, but it is developing, and with this environment today, rotation like this could rapidly intensify and drop a tornado. So again, already got a tornado warning. This one's gonna again be in western Oklahoma near Strong City, gonna be going towards Lede, gonna be eventually going towards Camargo in western Oklahoma. So if you're in this tornado warning, again, you got to seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building, and away from windows. It is going to be a long day if we already have a tornado warning. I mean, we're going to have a lot of storms today. Not seeing really much rotation, by the way, in the Texas Panhandle, so this is really the main storm right now. Once again, that's in western Oklahoma. Real quickly, I do want to kind of go back through this. We'll watch that storm, obviously, but I do want to mention a couple more things about the timing and as well as the threat of severe weather today. So let me hop real quickly back to where I was at. I don't know what time we're even at. I think we're like 7. All right, so this is about 7 o'clock tonight. Notice most of the storms will be clustered, but we will still have a strong tornado threat ongoing across central Oklahoma and southern Kansas. That is where damaging winds, large hail, and again, tornadoes will be possible. And this tornado threat really is not going to wind down much, even at 7 o'clock. It's going to continue. It will continue all the way through the late evening even. We'll have a big area of storms from Kansas back into Texas. And eventually, as we go into the overnight hours, we are going to have a more significant damaging wind threat develop. And that'll be developing as we go into the overnight hours, and this will all push towards the DFW Metroplex. It'll push throughout parts of Oklahoma, and that is where significant damaging winds will be possible, large hail, and the threat again for a few tornadoes embedded in this line of storms. Now, one key thing I do want to mention about Texas in particular, I know a lot of people are wondering what's going down in Texas, the DFW area, because they're under a moderate risk as well. Here's the big deal. All right, we have a cap in place across North Texas right now. If that cap stays in place, we are not going to see significant severe weather this afternoon, but if that cap is overcome, we will have the chance for significant severe weather. And you're probably wondering, what in the world is a cap? Is it a thing that you wear on your head? No, it is a temperature inversion that is in the atmosphere that basically prevents storms from developing and building up. So if that cap does stay in place, we will not be seeing significant severe weather in DFW later today. It will not happen at least until the overnight hours. We will see the second area of storms. That's guaranteed pretty much. But the first round of storms is more questionable. If that first round develops, that is where strong tornadoes will be possible and very large hail. The second round is going to be more of a wind-driven threat with some embedded tornadoes. So that's where we're looking in terms of the timing and whatnot. I think that's all I was going to mention, at least about the timing for now. And then as we go into the overnight hours, again, we'll have a huge area of storms across a large area of Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and as well as Texas. And that'll roll all the way through the morning hours. So again, it's going to be a very busy next 24 hours. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll be keeping you posted with the latest. And if you do need a weather app for today, I highly recommend downloading Radar Omega. You can get on your iOS and Android device. The link to download that is at the top of the description. Again, you can download that top link in the description below on iOS and Android, and that is the weather app we'll be using throughout the entire live stream. It's only $8.99, but it comes with a bunch of features like the live radar, velocities, correlation coefficient. You can watch storm chasers in the app, and you can also watch live cameras in the app. They got a ton of them. So again, that is the top link in the description below. Alrighty, that's the forecast. Obviously, this tornado warning kind of came out of nowhere. Well, not really out of nowhere, but it's, you know, early, obviously. It's only 10 a.m. and we already have a tornado warning. Once again, this is in western Oklahoma, so this is going to be including those in Strong City, Lede near Highway 34, and this will be going towards Camargo. This is again for Dewey County and Roger Mills County in western Oklahoma. And again, our rotation is right here. We also got another spot of rotation near Lede, just west of Highway 34. Again, this storm is moving northeast, so if you are in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your safe place away from windows, the lowest floor possible. The storm is moving northeast at about 45 miles per hour, so it is a pretty quick moving storm. And also, we have a storm back over near Fairview that is beginning to pick up on rotation. This one has now gone to a tornado possible. So what that means is that there is rotation, but it is not enough quite yet to issue a tornado warning on this. So that is going to be a storm to watch for as well. That is a newly developing storm. I do want to show you this as well. This is another thing I wanted to show. This is an experimental tool from the Storm Prediction Center, but this is interesting. Shows you the probability of an occurrence for a severe weather threat. And notice the greatest risk, and this is for Oklahoma City, the greatest risk for severe weather today will be from about 4:30 until about 9:30 in the Oklahoma City area or even the suburbs. And the greatest tornado risk in this area will also be from about 5 p.m. until approximately 9:30 p.m. and then it kind of levels off a little bit after that. So this is another interesting tool on the Storm Prediction Center website. Gives you an idea of what the potential probabilities are for tornadoes, winds, and hail. Notice their hail threat, by the way, is a much higher risk overall in Oklahoma City. It actually gets up near a 50% chance within a 25-mile radius for large hail today. So that is quite a large threat, especially across Oklahoma, where there will be the chance for large to very large hail as high as 4 inches in diameter, potentially even a couple of storms that go higher than that. So once again, it is going to be a very busy day. I cannot stress this enough. If you are anywhere in the risk area today, make sure that you're staying very vigilant, have multiple ways to receive alerts, and have a tornado action plan in place, which means you know where you're going to your safe place, like your storm shelter or basement. Know where you're going. Just know that place well ahead of time instead of having to panic last second. I do want to mention this as well. I don't know if this has changed, but from yesterday's tornadoes, if you were watching yesterday's stream, we have not had any confirmed fatalities yet out of yesterday's event, which is remarkable if that stands true with what we saw yesterday. We had massive tornadoes yesterday across both Nebraska and Iowa. We had very strong and intense tornadoes even rip through populated areas. So if that stands true, that is incredible. And that obviously goes to show how much warning there was ahead of time on the event from yesterday. We had so much warning ahead of time on that event. And so hopefully that stands true, and I'm glad everybody at least heeded warning there. It was a substantial day yesterday, what we saw. Again, it was a tornado outbreak, and it way overperformed, over forecasted, but once again, it seemed like everybody stayed weather aware there, which was good. At least, you know, again, hopefully we do that again today, where everybody's staying weather aware and everybody's staying vigilant here across this entire area in the central and southern plains. Thank you, by the way, Sandra. Appreciate that. Thank you. What's the risk for Wichita? And thank you for what you do. Risk for Wichita, more than anything, will be more of a large hail threat and damaging wind threat. There will be a tornado risk, especially if any of these storms really start to intensify during the late morning into the afternoon. This would be the area to watch for, which we have one right now. But if more storms develop later this morning into the afternoon, we'll be watching for any discrete supercells, essentially, to be rolling up that direction into southern Kansas. Rotation is still there. Once again, on this tornado warning near Strong City, Oklahoma. This is for Roger Mills in Dewey County and western Oklahoma. We still have a tornado warning here. Once again, if you are under this tornado warning, you need to seek shelter immediately, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. We do have an environment today where it is very favorable for tornadoes, so a storm like this could rapidly intensify and produce an elevated tornado risk as this storm does continue to evolve and develop as we go throughout the rest of the morning into the early afternoon hours. Again, we have a tornado watch for a large chunk of western Oklahoma until 1 p.m. today, and they will probably issue another tornado watch here relatively soon once more storms get going. And that would probably be for the same area because, I mean, this is really the main area, but this watch goes for 3 more hours. So there isn't any need for another tornado watch right now, but this is really the main area to watch for over the next several hours. What's the risk for Waco today? Waco's really looking more at I'd say more of a damaging wind threat. It'll be more overnight tonight. I don't think we're going to get really any discrete cells there. I think it'll be mostly driven for wind. We reportedly do have a wall cloud on this storm. I don't know if we have anything photographic of that, but we do have a wall cloud that has been reported on this particular storm. So there is obviously rotation on this, and by radar you can obviously tell that as well. So again, this is a storm that has the potential to produce a tornado as it continues to move northeast. We are also watching the storm near Fairview, which is bit more populated here in northern Oklahoma. Once again, nothing super intense here when it comes to rotation, but we do have a hook right now. We do have a bit of an inflow going to the storm. This is a storm that we'll have to watch for very closely. It's very discreet. It's also in a very favorable environment. And this rotation is definitely trying to ramp up right now near O'Keene and Fairview in northern parts of Oklahoma. This is not tornado warning right now, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we got a tornado warning here soon. This is an organizing storm. By the way, if you guys do see any reports on Twitter, you can always at me on Twitter, at MaxVelocityWX. I'll try to relay as many reports as possible throughout the day today. Obviously, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and we'll be keeping you posted with the latest with severe weather coverage, which, once again, we do have some rotation there. This is from the radar site in Oklahoma City. Obviously, this is looking higher up into the clouds, but it gives you an idea that there is some sort of there's some sort of rotation near the cloud base. So there may be a wall cloud developing right now southeast of Fairview, which obviously could pose the threat of a tornado down the road as this moves northeast. Also, thank you, Mark, for that generous donation. Thank you. Also, thank you, Gary, Mr. B, and Wyke for all becoming Velocity members. Also, thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. All right. No, we were live for 9 hours yesterday, and I know a lot of you guys were watching live coverage yesterday, but we were live for 9 hours yesterday. There was not a single second in that entire live stream where there was not a tornado warning, which is insane. And I'm not saying today will be the same way, but it's tracking towards being a very active day where there will be multiple tornado warnings throughout the day. Here's NATOcast's latest tornado outlook for today. I wouldn't put too much stock into this. Again, it's computer generated. It's not, an official forecast. I wouldn't be too concerned about, the numbers here. They're all statistics. Just don't worry about that. The thing that you want to look at, though, is the brighter colors. This is where, again, that greatest tornado risk would be today. So, obviously, NATOcast, again, experimental. It's not an official forecast. And it's not the Storm Prediction Center. The Storm Prediction Center is, again, only at a 15% probability. But they do show the highest tornado risk, once again, being throughout central Oklahoma, back even into parts of north central Texas in their latest outlook. And they just issued this moments ago. So, that's their latest outlook for today. Which, again, it's experimental. There's no reason to panic about that sort of thing. But, again, I do want to really urge you today to stay very vigilant and weather aware. Make sure that you have multiple ways to receive alerts throughout the day today. It's going to be very active. We're going to have multiple tornado warnings. Again, strong and long track tornadoes will also be possible here across a large chunk of the central and southern plains. Again, it's going to be a few storms that produce long track tornadoes. It's not going to be every single one, but there will probably at least be one or two storms, maybe three, that produce a long track tornado. And keep in mind, long track tornadoes, they are very, very isolated. Like this would be kind of like the track of a tornado, for example, if it happened. It's not covering a massive area. I think some people get this kind of perception that if we have a lot of strong long track tornadoes, that they are going to be covering a massive area. That's not how that works. Tornadoes, most of the time, are less than a mile in size. But in some cases, like yesterday, we actually had a couple tornadoes that were around a mile or so. Again, we don't know the official numbers, but they looked visually as if they were about a half a mile to a mile wide. And you want to think of it that way, like it's not going to be covering 10 miles of space with one tornado. So again, if there's a long track tornado today or a very strong tornado, it's going to be, again, a small area, but those people in that track of the storm and in that area need to stay vigilant and obviously have that tornado action plan in place. Hopefully that makes sense. But once again, there's virtually no reason to panic today. I know we're under a moderate risk, but there's no reason to panic. You just want to make sure that you are staying very vigilant today and staying weather aware. I would say somewhat good news is that today is Saturday, so most people are at home and probably not doing anything too important. So at least with that being said, we should have a lot of people staying vigilant and weather aware today. And at least that, when the peak tornado threat happens later this afternoon, it's not going to be happening when their rush hour commute is happening, at 4 p.m. on a normal Friday. Instead, today's Saturday. And I didn't even realize today was Saturday until, a little while ago, because I have a final exam at 2 o'clock, and apparently today's Saturday, and I have a final exam on a Saturday, which is fantastic. But, yeah, again, at least it's Saturday, and it's not like a Thursday or whatever, like a weekday. Because I gotta tell you, if this was a weekday, it could be a lot more chaotic with people traveling to and from work. I do recommend, if you are planning on getting groceries today or whatever it might be, do it this morning, no later than like 1 or 2 p.m. because after that, it's going to get very active, and it's not worth, you know, risking your life trying to get some groceries. It's just not worth it. Do have some, again, stronger rotation aloft near Lee. Rotation closer to the surface is not nearly as impressive, but we do at least have some sort of rotation probably near the cloud base. That's going to be, again, in Roger Mills in Dewey County in western Oklahoma. We do have a tornado possible on this storm, which is going to be, again, to the south of Cherokee and south of Helena in northern Oklahoma. This is near O'Keene and Fairview, moving northeast at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. So far, this is the most impressive supercell that we've seen today. Has a hook echo that we have developing, and we also got a bit of an inflow. The problem is right now it's not really rotating a whole lot, at least near the surface. It is rotating aloft, but it's not really rotating near the surface. So that storm might struggle a little bit here over the next 15 to 20 minutes, but it could definitely materialize as it moves further to the northeast, eventually going towards Enid, Oklahoma. Yeah, for those that are wondering, I already studied for my exam, so we studied for like 2 hours this morning. That was it. It was a very short-lived exam study, but overall, today's exam, it's not like super hard, and I also don't need a super high grade for it, so I'm not super concerned about it. It's a weather exam, obviously, but it's a lot to do with, like, for those that might be more into meteorology, it's like QG theory, which is more like the basic stuff of it, kind of like, and knowing what each equation's terms are, all that sort of stuff. So it's nothing like, insane. Also like cold air damming and some synoptic features, just, it's more general stuff. It shouldn't be super hard. So I'm not super concerned about it. With that being said, it is going to basically play a factor. Again, today's live stream, this live stream will go until about 1 to 1:30 Central Time. So it's about a 3-hour live stream. And then we'll also be live after that. So just make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon down below. We'll be live 2 different times today. This one will be our first coverage and then second coverage later today. And we'll also be with Storm Chaser Connor Croft, I believe, right around 1 p.m. is when he'll be going live. So we'll have Storm Chaser Connor Croft with us, and we will probably have we'll have a lot of live cams as well with Virtual Railfan and Radar Omega. I would fail. I honestly, like, a lot of people ask me how in the world do I balance full-time college and this. I could not tell you. I really don't know. It's pretty crazy how I balance this and that at the same time. It's a crazy thing. Once again, we are looking a little bit higher up into the atmosphere from the Oklahoma City radar site, but we do have an area of circulation developing near Ringwood. This is not tornado warned, but it could get tornado warned as this storm continues to move to the northeast. That'll be going towards Enid and Ringwood and Lahoma and Drummond in northern Oklahoma. I'm more concerned about this storm purely due to how many people are in the track of this one in northern Oklahoma, more populated. And then the storm back over near Leedy and Camargo, I would say, is concerning in its own regard. The rotational loft, once again, is definitely a bit on the stronger side. So we probably at least have some sort of lowering or wall cloud. But it's not confirmed by radar, and it's not enough for there to be a confirmed tornado at this point, unless we have some sort of observation of that. Once again, that is moving northeast. It'll be approaching Route 60 in western Oklahoma. Again, that's in Dewey and Roger Mills County, Oklahoma. I believe the population in that tornado warning, by the way, is like 572. So it's not a very populated area, but unfortunately, this storm will be going into more of a track of a more populated area here in northern Oklahoma. Down the road, this particular cluster of storms will move towards Woodward and Waynoka in northwestern Oklahoma. This is insane. It's only 11 a.m. right now. Or it's not even 11 a.m. It's 10:30 a.m. There's already 4,000 instability in multiple spots. This is 4,000 joules per kilogram of instability, which, for those that are wondering, instability values on a typical severe weather day, like a marginal slight sort of risk, usually range from like 100 up to maybe 1,000. Some cases will get higher than that. It just depends on the day. But 4,000 joules per kilogram is an insane amount of energy. And that's why we already have storms firing off. I mean, that's a lot of instability, which, for those that are wondering, what is instability? It's essentially like putting gasoline into a vehicle. It's what fuels severe storms, though, in this case, or fuels storms for them to be able to develop. So that's a pretty substantial number this early into the day. That we do not have values usually that high this early into the day. I mean, again, we're at 10:30 a.m. Usually those values don't happen until like 4 p.m. I don't know how high they'll get, but they could get pretty high. The other thing is today, this is a live camera on Radar Omega in Burlington, Kansas. It's pretty cloudy. It's cloudy across most of this area. Here's the satellite imagery. Again, we got all of our storms blowing up right now in western Oklahoma, but there isn't really a whole lot of sunshine. We got some like peaks of sunshine, but it's not much. With that said, it's just, this environment, it's just insanely favorable today. We have a lot of shear. We have very strong veering profiles throughout the atmosphere, and again, the wind shear is just crazy. It's going to be a crazy number later today. The tornado parameter values are really high. With that being said, so it's going to be a very active day today. Obviously today, I mean, right now we're at like a low point. This is not anywhere close to how busy it'll be later today, but it's going to get busy. Here's another graphic, by the way, that shows you where the greatest threat of severe weather will be. This is from the Storm Prediction Center. It's an outline that I would do also, just kind of to demonstrate it. But this is basically what you need to be looking at for today. So the greatest tornado risk is anywhere in this red shaded area. I'm going to outline it so you can see it better. That red shaded, or red dashed area, I should say, the red dashed area is where the most favorable area is for strong and long track tornadoes, which goes from Abilene and the DFW Metroplex back into Oklahoma. I do want to remind you that there is a cap in place in Texas today, so that threat is questionable. We may or may not see storms fire up. If they do fire up, they'll be more significant. All right, I'll go back to that in a second. We do have a new tornado warning for those in Camargo, Leedy. We do not have 3 tornado warnings. We have 2. I don't know why my counter's broken. This is moving northeast. If you're in this tornado warning, stay in your safe place away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. It's going to be on the same storm that we've been talking about here for the last few minutes. And that's just north of Butler. You love the new sound? That is Radar Omega blaring through my speakers when a tornado warning gets issued. That is not a new alert sound. It's just I have Radar Omega alerts on, so that just literally scared the crap out of me. It's so loud in here. But again, new tornado warning for those in Putnam, Camargo, Leedy, and just northeast of Strong City, north of Butler. Once again, this is for Roger Mills, Dewey County, and Custer County in western Oklahoma. Again, if you're in this tornado warning, seek shelter in an interior room of your home or building, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. We don't have a great radar view on this. I think the Oklahoma City radar site is really the best one, but that is your strong pocket of rotation aloft, which again does not mean we have a tornado on the ground right now, but it gives you an idea that we do have some strong rotation with this particular storm, at least a little bit above the ground right now. All right, this storm's more concerning. We do have a new tornado warning now for those in, I think it's a NID. Is it a NID or ENID? Or a NEED? That area's in the track of this here in northern Oklahoma near Ames and as well as Wacomas near Lahoma. This is a brand new tornado warning. If you're in this tornado warning, you need to seek shelter immediately away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. Interior room of your home or building. And this is radar indicated. We do have golf ball sized hail with this storm as well. So it is an intensifying supercell. And once again, this is going to be moving to the east and east-northeast with this particular area of rotation. And we don't have any CC drop on this, so it's not confirmed. But again, brand new tornado warning. We got 3 now. We got 2 on the storm back over in rural western Oklahoma. And we got this one in northern Oklahoma. So once again, if you are in this tornado warning, you need to go to your safe place, that is a storm shelter or basement, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible in an interior room of your home or building, as this storm will continue to move to the east-northeast over the next several minutes, producing the threat for a tornado. So once again, we're early in the day. I know we already have 3 tornado warnings, but this is what we're expecting today. It's going to get very active very quickly. This morning, it's going to be this is more, I would say right now, what we're seeing. It's more of like a slight risk sort of severe weather. It's not really the main core of today's event. It's definitely not the climax. We're not really seeing that really until closer to like 3 to 7 o'clock. But this is what we're going to be seeing throughout the morning, are these tornado warnings that are going to continue to pop up and produce the threat again for tornadoes with these discrete cells and semi-discrete cells that we have ongoing across Oklahoma. So it's going to get very active again very quickly. You need to stay vigilant today and stay weather aware if you're in Oklahoma. Enid, it's Enid, right? Enid, Oklahoma. That's how you pronounce it. If you guys do see any reports on this storm or any of these storms on Twitter, again, you can at me at MaxVelocityWX on Twitter. The link is also below. I'll try to relay any reports that we have. This storm most likely has a wall cloud with it. Doesn't say it on here, but it is likely that we do have a wall cloud with this. And again, that would be the strong pocket rotational loft that we have right now, moving east-northeast, going towards Enid. Or Enid. Enid. Thank you. We do have about an hour until the next Storm Prediction Center outlook. And once again, the risk level right now today is a moderate risk. We could see a high risk, but I don't know about that. I don't know if there's enough confidence there. Again, I don't know if they will issue one. I'm just saying, like, it's not out of the question with today's potential for tornadoes. I think it depends, again, a lot on the storm mode today, and since there is still a little bit of uncertainty of whether we'll have more of a linear or discrete supercellular setup, it could go either way. We could get a discrete, threat where there's more tornadoes, or we could get linear storms, which are more damaging wind and hail producers in today's environment. Here's the latest radar scan, by the way. We do have stronger rotation aloft, which will be approaching Enid over the next few minutes in northern Oklahoma. And near the surface, it's not super strong, but it is beginning to try to ramp up as of right now. And that's going to be approaching Highway 132 near Drummond. And eventually going to be going again towards Enid and Wakumis in northern Oklahoma. So again, if you're in this tornado warning, you got to seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible. We do have some strong rotation still back over near Camargo, Oklahoma as well. So we have 2 couplets that have the potential for a tornado. You can kind of see it on radar here. We got that like hook kind of developing here. That right there again is your hook. Kind of go back a few scans. You can kind of see that in motion developing. It's kind of been in and out though. It's not been super organized yet. That would be where we're looking for that tornado threat. There isn't really a whole lot of an inflow there either. It's not fantastic when it comes to that particular feature. New velocities in just a second. There is a cap in place, but not in Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma kind of has a cap right now, or at least as of a few hours ago, but it's not enough to really prevent storms later today. There is a cap in North Texas, but that is that might or might not hold, but it's more relevant to Texas. It's not really as relevant to Oklahoma. Oh, I forgot my... Sorry, I fixed it. My audio was put to desktop audio. That is why there was a blaring siren. I didn't realize that. My bad. That's why there was also the swishing sound. That's when the radar updates. I accidentally had my audio on the wrong thing, so that would be why. My apologies. Technical difficulties like usual. I like the siren. It's the radar Omega siren. I haven't seen a whole lot of rotation near the surface on this storm. But wow, look at that. That is strong rotation developing aloft. We almost definitely have a wall cloud right now approaching Enid, Oklahoma. Very strong tightening rotation aloft. Which again is moving east-northeast. That is some quite strong rotation. Again, what we're looking at here is the velocities radar. Those are winds going toward the radar. This is winds going away from the radar. So that is your typical cyclonic spin on a tornado worn cell. And again, if we get a tornado, it would be right where those red and green colors connect. And so we are definitely seeing an increase now of rotation. Yeah, no CC drop or anything. We don't have any super strong rotation near the surface, but aloft it's definitely strong. And this is a closer up radar site. So it gives you an idea, at least right now, that we do have at least some broad rotation near the surface. We could go a little bit higher aloft. But it doesn't go up any higher there. It's pretty broad at the beginning of this tornado warning. It's definitely intensifying. Whoa. It's not even showing the velocities anymore. It's gotten pretty strong aloft. Yeah, and this storm could drop a tornado at any time. It is very discreet. So again, if you are in this tornado warning near Enid, Oklahoma, you've got to seek shelter. Away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. It's a bathroom, a storm shelter, a basement, or a closet. We're getting a little bit more of a signature near the surface. So popping up a little bit more there. It's still not super tight near the surface yet. Go back to this radar site again. We're going between radar sites because this one shows it more aloft. At least gives you an idea that we do have at least some sort of lowering right now on this storm. Near Lahoma. More than likely we have a wall cloud. I don't know if we have any reports of that officially, but more than likely we have a wall cloud here. And then, obviously with a wall cloud, that's the beginning stages of a tornado, so that would eventually lead to, you know, potentially it could lead to a funnel cloud and then a tornado. But this storm is definitely trying to intensify right now. See how those winds going toward the radar really feed into the away from radar winds. Really feeding in there. This will be approaching Lahoma, Oklahoma, and Drummond and IMO over the next few minutes. So once again, if you are in the pink polygon, you've got to stay in your safe place. That is a storm shelter or basement, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. We'll have a new radar scan on this radar site in just a moment. That's closer to the storm. We want the new siren. We might be able to work that in somehow. I'll have to figure that out later, though. I can't really implement it now. It's just embedded in the app. There's still nothing on the ground as of right now. It's not confirmed by radar. But the storm is definitely trying to organize right now. It's trying to produce. It's going to be approaching Lahoma and Route 60 within the next 5 minutes. So again, if you're in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your safe place, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. That is in an interior room of your home or building. If you guys do see any official reports on this, just at me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX, and I'll try to relay it. Rotation's awfully strong though aloft. It's strong enough for there to be at least a wall cloud. And there's also golf ball size with hail with this storm as well. So that is also a threat. I'm not seeing any new reports as of right now on this storm, but I do want to remind you that, again, there could be a tornado at any time with this storm, even if we don't get a report on it visually. The storm is in a position where there could be a tornado at any time as it moves east-northeast. It will be moving into a need, or a NID. Sorry, I keep saying a need. Enid, Oklahoma. But I'm not seeing anything in terms of funnel cloud or wall cloud reports as of yet, but it is developing a hook echo, which is obviously one of the steps as well to there being a tornado, and you can see that hook right here. It's trying to develop right now. So rotation is trying to intensify. We don't have any CC drops, so once again, this is not a confirmed tornado, but it is a storm that could drop a tornado at any time as it continues to move east and east-northeast. It is currently moving in that direction at about 25 to 30 miles per hour, so it's not a super fast-moving storm, but it will be approaching Enid over the next 15 to 20 minutes. We are getting a more clean hook echo. We also have an inflow that's trying to develop here as well. So there's definitely more developing here on this storm than we had a few minutes ago. And once again, it's a pretty classic looking supercell. Well, it almost is. It's getting close to that shape. Also, this is where the threat for golf ball sized hail will exist. So that would be near Ringwood, Oklahoma. Not seeing a whole lot on the correlation coefficient for the hail threat, but that would be where we're looking for hail. Vertically integrated liquid shows that a bit more. They have just expanded the tornado watch, I believe. Unless I'm tripping. Enid wasn't in the tornado watch, right? I think they may have just expanded this. I could be wrong. Unless I'm tripping. Aloft means like well above the ground. We're talking like 8 to 10,000 feet or so, or wherever the cloud base is, basically. So 5 to 8,000 feet up into the atmosphere, maybe a little bit lower than that. Basically, where the cloud base is, that's what I'm talking about, aloft. So it's not at the surface. It's again aloft. So above the ground. All right, warning's just been upgraded or updated. It's still radar indicated rotation. And this is moving east-northeast, going towards Enid, near Route 81 and Route 60. And we've had a bit of a hook developing on this storm for the last few minutes. There is a bit more of an inflow trying to develop as well, so it does have a chance to produce something as it continues to move to the east-northeast. But this has not touched the ground quite yet. But the rotation has been strong, a little bit off the ground, so this is definitely a situation where we could get a tornado as this continues to move east-northeast. Once again, see if we have any reports on this storm. All right, nothing new as of right now on this. Again, it's still radar indicated. We haven't had any funnel cloud or wall cloud reports on this. The assumption, though, is that there is at least some sort of lowering or wall cloud. With the radar that we have further down to the south, it does show a bit more strong rotation, and that's near Lahoma. But again, we're looking well further up into the clouds, so that would be, much further up to the north. Also, there's a pretty strong rotation near Camargo, just heads up there. So strong rotation near Camargo, Oklahoma. It's moving northeast and north-northeast. That will be approaching VC and as well as ceiling. I don't think we have any other radar sight on that. This is another view. So again, you can see the rotation there. It's about to move out of this tornado warning. They may just let this expire. We'll have to wait and see. Also, we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning for the north and west side of Enid. Is it not Enid? Enid? I thought I had it right before. But this is a new severe thunderstorm warning for 2-inch hail. So we're now up to the size of Easter eggs for hail size. That's 2 inches in diameter. And as well as the threat for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. They do have a tornado possible label on this. So once again, just be very vigilant if you're in this area, and obviously stay away from windows. I'm never going to get this pronunciation. Enid. That's what I've been saying. Have I not been saying that? As you can tell, I don't live in Oklahoma. I don't know the pronunciations here. All right, here's the latest radar scan. And we'll have a velocities update here in a second. So once again, we are watching for a tornado potential down in here, just down to the south and kind of in the vicinity there of Lahoma. Gonna be approaching Enid over the next few minutes. Let me put a quick track on this. Again, we'll use the Radar Omega tracking tool. We'll track the storm out. So at about 25 to 30 miles per hour to the east-northeast. So your timing includes the Jonah area in about 20 minutes. Enid is still about 25 minutes from the storm, but you should still be in your safe place well ahead of that time because this storm could speed up. You got Breckenridge in about 45 minutes. Cropper in about 50 minutes, and then you got about an hour for Garber. Salt Fork is in about a little over an hour. Billings in 80 minutes. And that's really about it for the main locations in terms of the track of the hook, where there would be that potential for a tornado. Oops, sorry. All right. Let's see. I'm not seeing really anything too strong near the surface when it comes to rotation. It's not super impressive by radar. Let's go back down to the south here. I don't know. It's not super strong right now. Obviously, with this kind of environment, this could easily drop a tornado if it does intensify further, but I'm not seeing anything too intense right now. I would obviously continue to stay in your safe place because this could still technically, strengthen and drop a tornado. And as I mentioned before, today's threat really peaks this afternoon. We are only in the early stages of today's event, so these storms are still trying to ramp up and get going. This day is going to be very long. Obviously, this is just the very beginning of what's happening. So just keep in mind, some storms may not form tornadoes here right off the bat, but obviously that's not a reason why you should just all of a sudden say, oh, the weather's done. I mean, it's not going to be done anytime soon. We're going to have multiple rounds of storms, especially in northern Oklahoma, where there will be at least 2 rounds of storms, perhaps even more than that, throughout the rest of today and into tonight. It's going to be very busy. What time's the peak? The peak will be between about 3 and 9. The tornado threat will probably peak, though, around 5 or 6, is my guess. 5 to 7 or so. I know the NATO cast is out. We kind of talked about it a little earlier. I would still say it's trying. It's just broad circulation. This is still radar indicated rotation, so once again, nothing confirmed on this. It will be approaching the city of Enid, Oklahoma here relatively soon. So again, continue to stay very vigilant if you're in that area. Continue to stay in your shelter spot. That is a storm shelter or basement, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. What in the world, dude? This is, again, this is a experimental tool, okay? This is not an official forecast. This is NATOcast's latest outlook using a variety of different computer models. Which this would be insane, but obviously, once again, it's not an official forecast. Just keep that in mind. But you know, the key to the story is, let me pull up again. The key to the story of this is ignore the numbers, ignore the probabilities, all that sort of stuff. Just realize where the brightest colors are, which would be like yellow and red and all that. That is where the greatest tornado threat will be today. So from north central Texas back into western Missouri, southeast Kansas, and a large chunk of Oklahoma. And once again, it's not an official forecast.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
But it is obviously actually, the NATOcast was very accurate yesterday. I do have to say that. They're not always accurate, but when they are accurate, they're usually really accurate. So, you know, yesterday they were quite accurate with yesterday's tornado threat. But once again, no reason to panic. I'm just showing you that just for reference. Again, it's just an experimental tool. There's no reason to take it legitimately, but you do want to make sure that, again, you're staying very vigilant today. There will be several tornadoes, almost undoubtedly, especially since we've already had like 5 or 6 tornado warnings this morning on 2 different storms. There will be more of these later today for sure. Here's the newest tornado warning. This one includes the north side of Enid, Carrier, and Kremlin, Oklahoma. So this storm is still moving east-northeast. Again, if you're in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your safe place, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. And an interior room of your home or building if you are in this tornado warning. Once again, this is moving to the east-northeast right now. This is still going on? What do you mean this is still going on? This is the big day. I mean, yesterday was a very big day, obviously not expected, but today was supposed to be the big day of this entire weekend, you know, tornado threat. Never expected to see a camera in Quanah. I put Quanah on there because that's where there will be some storms later today. We have Quanah, we have Oklahoma City, we have Wichita, and on Radar Omega, we also have Oklahoma City, German, Texas, Burlington, Kansas. So we got a good amount. Discord is linked in the description. Next SPC Outlook is in 30 minutes. Still a broad area of circulation that will be approaching Enid and northern Oklahoma here relatively soon. Once again, aloft. The radar site from Oklahoma City showing aloft. It's been very strong rotation, which, again, probably represents that we have a wall cloud. So some sort of rotation actively happening off the ground. But at this point, again, nothing confirmed or anything like that. The rotation near the surface is not very strong. So that part of this storm still is struggling a bit to form a tornado. We'll have a new radar scan in about a minute. New NATOcast is insane. Yeah, but once again, don't put too much stock into it. It's an experimental tool. Now, again, I would not be surprised if we ended up getting a high risk, but again, it's just speculation. And it's, again, the difference between there being a moderate risk or a high risk for tornadoes today is kind of irrelevant when you think about it. I mean, you just need to still stay, very vigilant in weather no matter what. The only difference is that the statistical forecasted probabilities are higher. It doesn't mean we are, all of a sudden 2 more tornadoes are going to happen because they just issued a high risk. It just means that there's a higher likelihood, essentially, of seeing tornadoes in a given area. So, again, I don't think there's any reason to panic today, but I do want to, again, keep reminding you that today will probably be one of the biggest severe weather days that we've had in quite some time. It might even be bigger than what we just saw, yesterday. It could. it's possible. Today's environment is extremely favorable for tornadoes, especially this afternoon and evening. And so once storms really ramp up later today, that is when that significant threat will really start to ramp up. But we're still hours from that. And also another reminder is that even if there are a ton of tornadoes today, not everybody's going to see tornadoes. So there's, again, no reason to panic, but as long as you have a tornado action plan in place, and if you're in a mobile home and you have an action plan like going to a sturdy structure, you should be fine. I mean, you just got to make sure that you have that, plan in place and being, very vigilant today. So once again, today is going to be a very active day. Once again, rotational loft is still pretty strong on this. I don't think we've had anything confirmed when it comes to like a wall cloud or something, but it's at least speculation that we might have a wall cloud here, which means at least some sort of lowering. Here's the latest Storm Prediction Center outlook for today. This was just issued a minute ago. A broader tornado watch will be needed prior to 18Z, which is right around lunchtime. A couple of strong tornadic supercells will be possible this afternoon. So that strong tornado threat will begin to ramp up here pretty soon. That includes north central Texas back into southern Kansas. So that is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. We have a huge severe thunderstorm warning behind the tornadic action back over here near the Enid area of northern Oklahoma. This is going to be for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour, quarter-sized hail, and they have put a tornado possible label on this particular severe thunderstorm warning. Wow. We haven't had one of these in a while. A broader tornado watch and or multiple PDS tornado watches will be needed by 18Z expiration, which is again 1 p.m. So they may need to issue multiple PDS watches. They also may issue. They also mentioned that non-PDS tornado watches will be issued. So that's a big word, and what that essentially means is that we are going to have some, again, significant tornadoes today. But more importantly, whenever we get a PDS tornado watch, it's not the same thing as a PDS tornado warning. But what it essentially means in nature is that several tornadoes are likely and strong tornadoes are likely as well. And essentially, again, PDS is a particularly dangerous situation. And with a PDS tornado watch, we are now watching for the threat of, strong tornadoes. It means the environment and the atmosphere is favorable for strong tornadoes. So that is the threat basically for today. Again, PDS tornado watches are something that do not happen very often. And this is a tornado warning for the Enid area of northern Oklahoma. This is moving east-northeast. Still haven't had any official reports of a wall cloud here, at least from what I've seen. Never mind, we do have a wall cloud. All right, so we do have a wall cloud on this storm. Moving northeast, it's going to be approaching Kremlin and the north Enid area of northern Oklahoma. Once again, there has now been a wall cloud reported on the storm. And it's pretty evident with the radar aloft that we've been seeing that for a while. So there's probably been a wall cloud going on here for quite a bit. Rotation's not nearly as strong as before aloft, but it's strong enough for there to be some sort of wall cloud. There were over 90 tornado warnings issued yesterday. Was there really 90? 90 tornado warnings yesterday. That's actually pretty crazy. Yeah, near the surface, again, rotation's been kind of almost non-existent. There has been a wall cloud once again with this storm, so there is some sort of lowering. We just have not had anything definitive near the surface yet. So continue to stay in your shelter spot if you are on the north side of Enid, Oklahoma, and if you are back over in Kremlin. $104 tornado warnings yesterday. Do we have an official number somewhere? By the way, this tornado warning for those in Enid, just stay in your safe place for the next couple of minutes until that warning's officially lifted. Again, the main pocket of rotation is now just a little bit off to your northwest, where there is at least a wall cloud. But at this point, no official tornado or any confirmation. There's no confirmation at this point of a tornado with this. Hasn't been at any point in this storm, but has had a rotating wall cloud for a little while now, which is the beginning stages of there being a tornado. Gate-to-gate wind speeds on the Omaha tornado were 230 miles per hour. That's insane. That is insane. Tornado warning, by the way, back over in western Oklahoma has expired. Or it actually might have been canceled. I think that one went to 11:15, but that one has been canceled. So the only two tornado warnings that we have, again, are in northern Oklahoma near Enid. So again, if you're in either of these two tornado warnings, stay in your safe place. The one for those in Enid goes until 11:15, and then this one further north goes until 11:45. Stay in that safe place until the warning is officially lifted or has been canceled or has expired. Obviously, stay in that place until the end of that time frame, and then, you know, if there's another tornado warning down the road, then just continue to stay there. But right now, that's where we're watching for. We got rotation that's kind of associated right in here. That's going to be approaching Kremlin over the next few minutes. And eventually, if the storm does try to continue, it would be going towards Pond Creek, Lamont, and Blackwell in northern parts of Oklahoma. And this would be the track of it, so we'll kind of time this out just a little bit. It's kind of turning a bit more off to the northeast again. But Salt Fork, Lamont, Numa, Eddy, Deer Creek, all going to be in the track of this here. As the storm continues to move northeast, and it also could recycle, so just keep that in mind. It does have a chance to recycle as it continues to organize, and as we go further into the morning and into the afternoon, these storms are going to become more favorable to produce the threat, again, for tornadoes. So there's definitely a shot here that down the road, we eventually get some sort of more organized supercells as these storms do continue to push northeast. Zachary, I don't know if you're talking about shelf clouds, but shelf clouds also are very common And they can sometimes be mistaken for wall clouds, but shelf clouds in particular, those are a lot more common, especially with severe storms. But even then, I mean, wall clouds do happen even with, you know, non-tornado warned cells. They just, most of the time they do get warned though. Most of the time. Depends a lot though on the environment. I'm not really seeing much rotation at the surface anymore. This may become a bit more outflow driven. Because right now we're seeing a lot of red here. And they don't even have a tornado possible label on this. But this right here, all that red is mostly just damaging wind potential. Matching that up with the reflectivity. There isn't really much there when it comes to rotation here. So overall, I don't think this storm has too much of a threat for a tornado unless it's able to recycle and try to intensify again. They have issued a new severe thunderstorm warning for Pond Creek, Medford, Lamont, and Nash. That is going to be for golf ball sized hail, which is 1.75 inches in diameter. And also the threat for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. And once again, a new Storm Prediction Center outlook will be coming out in approximately 15 to 20 minutes. If you have not already heard, a PDS tornado watch is being considered for Oklahoma today, which, with that being said, is, you know, not something we see very often. So, you know, that could very easily happen today. And if we get a PDS tornado watch, what that means is that the atmosphere is favorable for strong and potentially long track tornadoes across much of central and western Oklahoma. So definitely a dangerous day ahead here across much of the Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas regions, mostly the central and southern plains, is what we'll be talking about today for the significant tornado threat. I did mention this earlier, but we do have an elevated tornado risk as well back up along the Mississippi, or not Mississippi, Missouri, so northern Missouri and northern Kansas areas. And this will be another area that's a bit more of a wild card spot. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but we will probably at least have a couple, if not even a few tornadoes back up along the Kansas and Missouri areas that's on the northern side of the state. It's not a super high threat by any means, but there will at least be probably at least a couple tornadoes up there, maybe even a few tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. It's an area that not many people are talking about, but I did want to mention it just in case you know anybody up there, or if you live in that area, there will probably at least be a couple of tornadoes. According to the SBC, 100 tornadoes yesterday. Yeah, we had at least 100 reports of tornadoes. That does not mean we had 100 tornadoes, for the record. It just means we had 100 reports of tornado damage or tornadoes in general. Which could have all been the same tornado, which a lot of those were on these same tornadoes. And for those wondering what the rating is for any of those tornadoes yesterday, you know, we won't have a clue probably for a lot of those tornadoes until at least tomorrow, because of how expansive that damage was on those tornadoes. Like, it's gonna take probably a few days, it could even take a week for that one tornado that went through the Omaha, just west of Omaha. It could take a while. So obviously just keep that in mind. We are still probably a few days out from getting any sort of confirmation on the EF rating on that storm and all that sort of stuff. I'm watching an area of circuit, a little bit of rotation here near Pond Creek. I'm trying to see how that evolves here. I do think the area in the tornado warning doesn't really have much rotation, but near Pond Creek right now, we do have a little bit of spin here. I'm an Enid and the activate of the sirens. Yeah, there's a tornado warning for both locations, at least for a few more minutes here. But the rotation's kind of already outside of this area. The storm is speeding up pretty quickly. It's moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. It might be going a bit faster than that, but the storm's definitely speeding up a little bit as it moves more northeast. Kind of looks like we got a little bit of rotation again near Pond Creek. I've been kind of looking at this. So just a little bit. It's pretty broad. It's not enough to be a tornado warning, but might be something to watch for. It does look outflowy. I was looking at radar. If we go back to reflectivity, you can kind of see. Looks like we got some sort of outflow boundary. So I think it has become outflow driven, at least on the southern side, which may have completely killed off its rotation. And we no longer have any tornado warnings, so they've just canceled both of them. The rotation itself moved out of the area anyways, or the new area of rotation. The other one just kind of completely fizzled out. So we no longer have a tornado warning on that activity. So we're back down to 3 severe thunderstorm warnings, but we'll watch that storm closely as there is a little bit of rotation there. It's probably not enough, but we'll have to wait and see. That storm's going to eventually move into Kansas in probably about half an hour to an hour. Alrighty, I'll be answering questions, by the way, throughout this live stream whenever we don't have tornado warnings. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We'll be keeping you posted with the latest with severe weather coverage throughout the day today. And also, if you need a weather app throughout the day today to keep you ahead of the storms, I highly recommend Radar Omega. You can download Radar Omega with the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. You get tons of features like the live radar, which is what we're looking at right now, watches and warnings. You got velocities radar, correlation coefficient. There are live cameras in the app. This is one over in Norman, Oklahoma. They got a bunch of live cameras across the entire area. They have storm chasers, which if you notice here, these are all storm chasers that are still over near Wichita, Kansas. They're all making their way down to Oklahoma, I believe. I'm guessing that's where all of them are going. I got Connor Croft, which will be with us later today. So you can watch those in the app. You can also get computer model data and satellite imagery if you get a subscription on their app. But the base app is $8.99. I highly recommend it. Again, you can download it with the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. Thank you, Nano, for the $4.99. What's the outlook for Northeast Missouri? I don't think we're going to see much in Northeast Missouri. It would be more of a hail threat and wind threat, but maybe an isolated tornado. But I don't think that's going to be much of a significant area today in Northeast Missouri. And once again, here's the risk for today. The next Storm Prediction Center outlook comes out in 13 minutes, so we will have that here momentarily. And we'll see if they issue a higher risk anywhere or anything like that. We'll have to wait and see if they have any big update. Also, thank you, Glenna, for becoming a minimum velocity member. I appreciate that, and welcome to the Velocities. Is there any danger to Carroll Stream, Illinois? Illinois, specifically in northern Illinois, I'm not looking at like a significant threat for anything in particular. It'd be just kind of like your isolated marginal threat for damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a brief tornado, but otherwise it's not really significant. Yeah, the storm's not really rotating. This storm's struggling. It's become more outflow driven, so more than anything, this storm is mostly a hail and wind producer. We got golf ball sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds with this storm, which is right now moving northeast. Also, for eastern Iowa, I'm not really expecting much there today either. It would just be isolated damaging winds, hail, and maybe an isolated tornado. It's a low threat for today. By the way, this storm has a lot of lightning. This is a highly electrified storm right now. It's interesting, though. We kind of got like this little hook here going, but since the storm has become a bit more outflow driven, it's not really in a great position to produce a tornado threat. Do still have some rotation, by the way, near Sealing, Oklahoma. Got a couple spots of rotation there. It's not enough really for a tornado warning, but it will be an area to watch for as those storms continue to move northeast. So we'll watch that activity very closely. Also, thank you, Chris, for becoming a minimum velocity member. Appreciate that, and welcome to the Velocities. Also, if you guys do get any photos or videos throughout the day today, you can tweet me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. And Again, new Storm Prediction Center outlook will be in about 10 minutes. And also, there is a possibility that we get a PDS tornado watch here pretty soon. I'm not sure when that'll be issued, but it'll probably be issued right around 12:30 to 1 p.m., right around when the tornado watch that is currently ongoing expires. So there may be a tornado watch that is a PDS tornado watch as early as 1 that is currently being considered by the Storm Prediction Center. Any tornadoes for Waco today? I'm not expecting really any tornadic activity there in Waco per se. In DFW, it's possible. It's going to depend, though, again, on the cap being overcome. And if the cap is overcome today, it is going to be essentially all modes of severe weather with discrete supercells. But the problem, again, will more than likely be that cap. If it's overcome, though, I mean, it's going to go haywire in North Texas. Hopefully it does not get overcome, because we're already going to have a big day here in Oklahoma and Texas, or Oklahoma and Kansas. Back down in Texas in particular, again, that cap, hopefully it stays in place. Otherwise, again, we're talking about a very populated area that's going to be impacted by storms later today, if that happens. Thank you, by the way, Chris, for for gifting a member. I appreciate that. Also, thank you, Greg, for becoming a minimum velocity member. Thank you, official. Appreciate it. What would break the cap? Either increasing temperatures near the surface or cooling temperatures aloft. It's usually what does it. What is the cap? I know a lot of people wonder what the cap is. Let me quickly pull up a sounding and I'll show you. So, one second. Pulling up a good old sounding. So this is what a cap is, and this chart's going to look confusing for those that are brand new to looking at weather charts because it has a lot of stuff on it, but what we're looking at essentially are the temperature and the dew point profiles throughout the entire atmosphere, from the ground all the way up. All right, this right here is the ground, and this is the temperature. So it's 73 degrees in DFW this morning. As we go up into the atmosphere, all of a sudden it runs into this roadblock right here. That right there is a temperature inversion, which is called your cap. And essentially what the cap does, it's essentially a lid on the atmosphere from basically preventing storms from building up past that point. Now, the lift and condensation level's right here. So storms will bubble up to about right here, and then they'll kind of struggle to really bubble up after that, because this cap is in place, and it's actually a very strong cap as of this morning. Now, if the temperature warms up enough, let's just say the temperature warms up, out to here or something like that, that's, close to like 85, 90 degrees, then we would get a cap basically eroding. But the problem is, either that has to happen, or the atmosphere above needs to cool down. One of those two things has to happen for this cap to basically erode. If the cap does erode, we'll be talking about significant storms in North Texas and in the DFW area. But if the cap ends up just staying in place, we're not going to have any storms this afternoon. It would all be held to overnight tonight when there's that damaging wind threat with that linear area of storms. So that's pretty critical. Another thing that's pretty critical here as well, the winds throughout the atmosphere are all veering, and they are very strong. So overall, it does not take much today for there to be a strong tornado anywhere in the central or southern plains. The winds at the surface in Oklahoma City, I heard, were like 40 miles per hour. So we have very favorable wind profiles throughout the atmosphere, and so again, it's a very favorable environment. Hopefully that explanation made sense. I think that's the most detailed I've gone into that before, because usually it can be hard to explain because we're looking at a sounding, and the sounding itself just looks confusing. We would need something that would separate the temperature, dew point, and everything else, and just like kind of showing the atmosphere, just so there aren't the lines everywhere, because there's just so much there.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
Alrighty, new tornado warning on this storm near Jefferson, Medford, Deer Creek, and Renfro in northern Oklahoma. This is moving northeast. Again, if you're in this tornado warning, you got to seek shelter immediately, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. And that's the rotation that we're looking at right now. It's that hook there. This will be approaching Medford, Deer Creek, Renfro, Oklahoma. And then after that, it'll be going into southern Kansas. It's moving northeast at 40 miles per hour, so this storm has now sped up a lot. It was only at like 20 miles per hour before. It's basically doubled speed. So, again, if you are in this warning, You need to continue to stay in your safe place, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building, and away from windows. If you know any friends or family in this area, give them a call or text. Make sure they're getting to their safe place. It's a good thing that today's Saturday and not Friday, because otherwise a lot of people would probably be on the roadways. There might be a lot of people on the roadways too right now. I don't know, but hopefully there's not nearly as many. Hopefully everybody's staying weather aware today. Callum, sorry, I didn't see that. Callum, if you're still here, I have no clue. I don't know where they put that information. It's experimental and it's brand new, those hourly charts, so I don't know exactly where you find that on their website. I just saw it on Twitter from their official page. By the way, if you guys do super chat, it's not a guarantee I'm going to respond to everything, because we already have so many super chats. There's 11,500 of you, so just keep that in mind. There's a lot of you and only one of me, so I cannot answer every single physical question possible, but I'm trying to answer as many as possible. We do have approximately 5 minutes until the next SPC outlook, so we'll see if they upgrade the risk at all or keep it moderate. I feel like they'll keep it moderate, but we'll see. Is the cap over Wichita Falls? There is a cap, but it's not as strong. By the way, did that cap explanation that I did a few minutes ago, did that make sense to everybody? Like, does that actually make sense? Hopefully it does. I feel like that was a pretty solid explanation. The cap is like the most common thing in North Texas. It's extremely common in severe weather season. It happens in Oklahoma City and other areas, but it's not as common. Right, here's the latest radar scan, and I'm really not seeing much here. We had a better shot of a tornado with this earlier. I'm not seeing a whole lot of strong rotation on this. We have a big wind field developing near Pond Creek. We could have damaging winds back here close to like 70 miles per hour, but the rotation itself is kind of struggling. Yeah, it's not super crazy right now. Obviously, continue to stay in your safe place in case the storm does try to, intensify as it moves to the northeast. Again, we're in northern Oklahoma right now. This is the only tornado warning that we have right now. It is for those in Medford, Jefferson, Pond Creek, Deer Creek, and Renfro. So again, if you are in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your shelter spot, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. Interior room of your home or building. Yesterday, I was watching your stream and talking with a coworker who comes from the Omaha area. Her cousins live in Elkhorn. She used your stream and warned her cousins. They got hit. They survived. Might have saved a life. I'm glad I could help, Joanne. I'm glad I could help them out. It's the goal of these streams. I appreciate you tuning in, and glad I could help them out. And thank you for sharing that story. It's the point of what we do here. And obviously, if you were here yesterday, I posted on Twitter too, but I literally teared up, and actually on Twitter, it's gotten a lot of response. I was kind of surprised with how many people saw it, but, we were live yesterday and I probably cried for about 3 minutes on stream, which is something I've never done before. And it was just such an emotional moment. I mean, the amount of lives that were impacted yesterday by yesterday's tornadoes were just, unbelievable. It was a devastating day yesterday. And so, it's really one of those situations where it's just, sad. And today's gonna be like the same way. Again, we're gonna get probably several tornadoes today, and multiple of them could be strong. So today could also be another big day here across the Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas area. I watched that video back, by the way, about 4 times before I went to bed last night. I literally cried every single time, and I don't know why. By the way, that lady was okay. She, she's, from what I heard at least, she's okay. So that's the good news. But yeah, that was the first ever time that I've legitimately cried on a live stream. It's emotional. I've seen other people, I've seen videos on YouTube before, like, meteorologists crying when there's a tornado on the ground, and it's kind of one of those things. It's actually, it hit hard yesterday. It was It's a big deal. Yesterday was not supposed to be that bad, and it went haywire so fast. And, you know, hopefully today busts. You know, I hope we don't have more tornadoes like yesterday. Yesterday was horrible. And those people that are, you know, hoping for tornadoes for, you know, whatever it is, it's just stupid. You know, you should never hope for destruction. It's horrendous. And what we saw yesterday is a great example of that. It was horrible. Now, the good news from what I've heard so far is that there have not been any confirmed fatalities. With that said, obviously, that could always change, but hopefully it stays that way. And that gives you an idea that, again, the word got out there and people were giving extensive warnings on every storm. The National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, everybody did a fantastic job yesterday. I mean, the word got out there about everything, and everybody was weather aware, it sounded like yesterday. So it's a big deal, especially with how big yesterday's event was. By the way, new Storm Prediction Center update just came out. There is no high risk. Could they add that at the next outlook? They could, but again, a lot of it's just speculation. This is the latest outlook. I don't think there's any changes from prior. I think this is almost identical to what we just had. I'll read over the outlook, though. Yeah, I don't think there's any like major changes to this outlook. It's pretty similar. Once again, several tornadoes are expected today. A tornado outbreak is expected across the central and southern plains. There's going to be a chance for a few long-tracked and strong tornadoes this afternoon, and as well as this evening across much of the central and southern plains. The wording on the new outlook mentions chaotic development in the afternoon. Does it? I didn't read super into detail here. Let me look. Sure does. Only weak upper forcing through the afternoon will result in chaotic development of discrete supercells in a very strongly sheared and very unstable environment. That is wording that I don't know if I think I've never seen before. Today is going to be a crazy day. It's going to be probably as bad as what we just saw yesterday with at this point. It might even be worse. I mean, you know, I've already looked at a lot of the forecast ingredients, and again, I'm not trying to scare you, but like, you know, the instability's off the charts. The shear is insane. The wind profiles are quite literally insane. Today's going to be a dangerous day, regardless of there not being a high risk. It's still going to be a very dangerous day. It's going to be a very active day. And once again, we went live very early today. And, you know, we're nowhere even close to the peak of the tornado threat. We've had a few tornado warnings, yes, but this is nowhere near the peak. The peak of tornadoes and whatnot is probably going to be around 4 to 7 o'clock or so. Broad spectrum time would be like 3 to 9. Yeah, it's gonna be a very, very active day. So, you know, stay weather aware, buckle up. It's gonna be a very busy day. Have multiple ways to receive alerts, and make sure that you have a tornado action plan in place just in case, because it is going to be a very busy day today. Some of the worst days are on moderate and enhanced days. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, sometimes it is, but I don't think there's a super big correlation to that. Glad I can help. I'm glad I can help, Mafia. Thank you for tuning in. Also, thank you, Randy, for becoming a Maximum Velocity member. Once again, this is a tornado warning in northern Oklahoma. It's radar indicated. Just a quick update. I've been watching this for a few minutes. I would have mentioned something if there was something really intense here. Rotation's kind of broadened out again. I'm not really seeing much here. I do see a pretty big push, though, of damaging wind potential going through Jefferson. Probably got some damaging winds around 60 to 65 miles per hour moving towards Deer Creek and Medford. But other than that, the storm has once again just kind of lost its grip. So I'm not seeing anything super concerning here. but we'll obviously continue to monitor it in case it does try to recycle. There's a lot of lightning here, so just keep that in mind. And that lightning is very frequent, so cloud to ground lightning is a possibility as this continues to move northeast. Nikki, yes. Have I ever been in a moderate risk myself? I think I have. I'm trying to think. I don't like remember it fully, but I think I was back in 2019. Could be wrong. I'm trying to think. It would have been when I lived in North Texas. But I think I was at one point. Wolfie, probably the main concern being damaging winds there. But stay weather aware for a low tornado risk and also some large hail potential. Just wondering what you think of the NATO cast 60%. I mean, I'll be honest with you, like, you know, I do think the number overall, it's, I don't know. I'm going to show it again. It's just, I feel like this could happen. I mean, you know, the NATO cast has been very accurate in the past with their tornado outlooks. And obviously, again, this is not an official forecast. Just ignore kind of the probabilities here for a second. Just look at the bright colors. That's what I kind of recommend you do here. Just look at the bright colors like this, for example. That's where the greatest tornado threat's going to be today. You know, these numbers inside of this area, they're obviously much higher for a percentage of a tornado threat. But, like, once again, it's, I don't know. I don't really have a fantastic opinion here because it's, just trying to think. I mean, like, I feel like this will be where the greatest threat of tornadoes is. And I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised maybe at the 2 o'clock update. You know, if the SPC has enough confidence, they might issue a high risk here. I don't know, but if you just look at the, let's hop over to the computer models real quick. Just real quickly and check the velocities. Yeah, still pretty weak rotation. This storm's kind of weakening out again in northern Oklahoma. Let me go to computer models. Here's the HRR model timing. So notice all these discrete cells that fire off later today. The problem, I think, though, with them upgrading to a high risk right now is that there is still a little bit of uncertainty about how many cells that stay discrete. If there are multiple discrete supercells, it is going to be a massive day. But if there's a bit more of these Boeing segments or linear areas of storms, that could struggle a little bit more when it comes to a tornado threat. So I feel like there's just enough uncertainty for there to not be a high risk. If we go to the tornado parameter values here. I mean, they really ramp up this afternoon, but even ramp up this evening. This threat could go for a long time. I mean, we're talking about tornado parameter values throughout the rest of today. What we're looking at here really would be for brighter orange, red colors and that sort of thing. And then purple and blue and whatnot like this would be much higher tornado risk. But I mean, overall, this tornado threat's going to be about, 12 to 15 hours long. It'll be much more isolated after 1 a.m. tomorrow. And then going into tomorrow, it'll probably be a lower risk. But I don't know. I wouldn't put too much stock into the risk there. I do think no matter what, though, this will probably be the main corridor for a tornado risk across much of central Oklahoma. And if we just go to the Storm Prediction Center's outlook here, it's basically on the western side, and that's where the storms are going to fire up later today. And overall, though, I do think there's just enough uncertainty, I think, for there not to be a high risk right now. Now, if there's more certainty that develops over the next couple of hours, I don't see why they wouldn't issue a high risk, but I just think the problem right now is the certainty level of these storms, because there is still a chance that we do not see several tornadoes. It's a very low chance, but it is still a thing that could happen if we do get a lot of this convection that goes linear later today and not discrete. That could mess with things. So I think that's the reason why they've kind of stayed away from a high risk. But once again, that could always change later today. There's still another outlook that comes out in a few hours, so just keep that in mind. All right, looks like they're about to cancel this tornado warning. Again, the rotation's been very weak. They have issued a new severe thunderstorm warning for this for 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds and quarter-sized hail, but the rotation has completely fizzled on this. So more likely than not, they are going to have this warning canceled. The new SPC is still a moderate risk. All right, there's your tornado warning, which is now gone. There is a new mesoscale discussion from the Storm Prediction Center. Things can get worse. We now have a high risk for flash flooding. And that is in central eastern Oklahoma. There's a high risk for flash flooding. This is the outlook for flash flooding. So we have a high risk now for flash flooding just east of Oklahoma City. So we didn't get a high risk for severe weather, but we have a high risk now for flash flooding. That is just east of Oklahoma City. We do have a new mesoscale discussion. I did mention that a second ago. This is for Kansas, which I mentioned. This is another area that not many people are talking about, but there will be some tornadoes up here today. This is going to be for northern and northeastern and even central Kansas. Severe weather threat will be increasing this afternoon with tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds being possible. So that'll be another area to watch for today. Again, it's a very large area today. That's just one of the many areas that we'll be having to watch today for an elevated tornado risk. And once again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the red button down below and subscribe, and click the bell icon down below so you're notified with the latest videos and live streams. And once again, we'll be live here all the way until about 1 p.m.-ish Central Time, and then we'll have another stream at 4 or so. I do have a final exam at the worst timing possible, which is, fun fact, that is going to be today at 2 o'clock. So, good times. Of course, I have a final exam right in the middle of a higher risk day of severe weather. But it is the end of April. All right, let me get a couple of these questions. Again, if you have questions, feel free to leave those in the chat. I'll be trying to answer as many as possible. Thank you, Randy, for becoming a Maximum Velocity member. Thank you, Steve, for the $9.99. If the temperatures in DFW stay in the low 80s, could an outflow boundary from earlier be enough to break the cap? If there's an initiator like an outflow boundary, it's possible, but the temperature, I think, is going to be a bit more crucial for the cap. Also, thank you, Izzy, for the 8 months. Appreciate that. I still have not taken my final, by the way. I know a lot of people keep, thinking I've taken my final. I've not taken it yet. I mean, I've already studied. I kind of already know everything, so I should be fine, but I still have to go there and take it. I can't just, magically have that poof out of my brain when I'm doing a live stream. I wish it was that easy. Thank you, Brad, for the $10 super chat. It's too easy to get comfortable when looking at risk areas. Most tend to think that if they aren't in the upper end of the risk, then they are safe, and it's not a good way to approach days like this. I do have to agree with that. Yeah, since we have a moderate risk today of severe weather, I do feel like it's going to put the message more out there that this here is where the greatest threat is. Now, if we had a high risk here, there is a possibility that people in this risk don't pay attention as much. That's, it's a psychological thing, but that would be something that actually happens. It's the same thing with hurricanes too. Whenever you're out of the cone of uncertainty, people just ignore it. People are like, oh, it's not coming toward me anymore. I'm out of the cone of uncertainty. That's not how it works. And that's why the National Hurricane Center is experimenting with new outlooks, so people have more awareness to stuff like this. Because once again, it's a lot of people just think, I'm in a moderate risk, but there's a high risk, so I shouldn't be concerned. No, you should be concerned. You should be concerned. You're in the higher level risk. It's not as easy as that. It's a big deal here. Also, thank you, Bo, for the $10 super chat. No message, but I do appreciate that. Thank you. Was the atmosphere not worked over by yesterday? No. So, fun fact. The storm that produced tornadoes yesterday is up here. This is a new storm. that is now going to be producing tornadoes today. So it's a completely different low pressure system. They're not the same storm. And so it's completely different environments, basically, if you know what I mean. So we're talking about two different storms. This storm is actually going to bring some severe weather to the Midwest, while this storm is going to bring the severe weather to the central and southern plains. So that is the setup for today. Thank you, Mary, for becoming a Maximum Velocity member. And welcome to the Velocities. Also, thank you, Kale, for the $5 super chat. Any tips for convincing a parent who lives in the moderate risk to take these threats seriously? I don't know. It's hard to convince people of things, even with weather. You know, convincing anybody of anything can be hard sometimes. It's one of those days, though. You know, I would just say this: gotta take today seriously. You know, several tornadoes are going to happen this afternoon. There could be some long-tracked, violent, and even potentially, you know, huge tornadoes. And so, you know, if storms go discrete later today, which there's a high likelihood that they do, we're gonna be talking about some significant tornadoes. I don't know what else you could say, though. I mean, if they're not convinced, they're not convinced. Not much you can do about people that just ignore the wording and ignore the warning. Like yesterday, for example, if, you know, people, almost everybody took yesterday seriously, which was impressive. For how many tornadoes there were, and still there have not been any confirmed fatalities, it's, you know, impressive. The word got out there yesterday. Hopefully it's the same way today. Hopefully everybody's taking today seriously after what we just saw yesterday. And with 11,000 of you watching, obviously, you know, there are 11,000 of you at least that are taking this seriously. And, you know, hopefully that number is, I think that number is way higher, but obviously we're not in any sort of tornadic activity right now, so. Thank you, Mixed Emotion, for gifting 5 members. I appreciate that. If you got any gifted membership, make sure to thank Mixed Emotion in the chat. Let's see. Thoughts on Fort Smith, Arkansas? I think Fort Smith will be more of a damaging wind threat. If we go to the HRRR future radar for today, you're more of a damaging wind threat later tonight. This is what the timing looks like. So we'll have those discrete cells firing off across western Oklahoma and back into a large chunk of southern Kansas as we go into the afternoon. This is 2 p.m. by the way, so plenty of storms out there producing the threat of severe weather. And then once we get closer to about 4, 5, 6, that's the peak of the threat of tornadoes. Multiple discrete cells will be out there producing strong and or potentially large tornadoes later today. And then once we get closer to 7, 8, those storms move into Oklahoma City. We'll eventually have this turn more into a line of storms by about 11 o'clock or so tonight. And that will eventually turn more into a damaging wind threat with embedded tornadoes in that line of storms. And that's going to stretch, by the way, across 3 or 4 different states. So it's a very large area that we'll be talking about tonight. This eventually by 1 to 2 in the morning, that area of storms continues to roll to the east, producing significant damaging winds, some large hail, but more damaging winds than anything, and then the threat also for a few embedded tornadoes in that line of storms. And then eventually, as we get closer to 3, 4, 5, they move towards Fort Smith. More of a damaging wind threat, though, I think, though, for Fort Smith. And that's what we'll be looking at in terms of the threat. But once again, those discrete cells that fire off earlier today around 5, 6 o'clock, that'll be the more concerning feature. Again, timestamp is up here on Radar Omega. Thank you, John, as well, for gifting 5 members to the channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thoughts on Peoria, Illinois? I'm not really expecting much up there. This is the timing there. I mean, we're going to be talking about storms later this afternoon, but it's mostly damaging winds, hail, and maybe an isolated tornado. I'm not concerned really about Illinois today. Which one, Tucker? Talking about the one that you posted on... I don't know which one you're talking about. It is subscribers only. Thank you, Sky, for the $5 super chat. What can a person do when there's nowhere to go if there's a tornado? Well, I mean, it depends on your situation. It's very situational, and if you don't know where you're going, then you should figure that out well ahead of time. I would have to say though, like if you're like in the middle of nowhere with a car or whatever, you should be trying to find a sturdy structure. But worst case scenario, you lay in a ditch or, you know, go into a very low-lying area, because a car is usually not safe, especially in strong tornadoes. But again, it's very situational. It depends on what you're doing and where you are. If you're, you know, I think you alluded to like homeless. If you're like a homeless person, you can find a sturdy structure. You know, that's what you got to do. That can be a McDonald's. You know, it just has to be something sturdy. A brick building usually is the best place to go, but it has to be something that is sturdy and that's just a building. Not a mobile home. We're not talking about mobile homes, because mobile homes are not good in tornadoes. And if you're in a mobile home today, by the way, you should have an alternate plan well before storms get to you, and go to a sturdy structure before you get into a tornado warning. If you know, if there's a storm coming toward you, because that's also going to be, again, quite, you know, a bad spot to be in if you're in a mobile home. They're just not safe. Also, being under a bridge. Do not be under a bridge. I've seen so many people under overpasses before. You know, when there's hail. Don't do that. You're going to cause a crash. You're going to cause more damage that needs to be done. It's going to be worse than you just driving through a hailstorm. This storm, by the way, approaching South Haven, Caldwell, in southern Kansas, near Belle Plaine, south of Wichita. It is now producing damaging winds up to 70 miles per hour. We do have a new tornado watch that has just been issued. This is going to be for those in Kansas and southeast Nebraska. So a new tornado watch issued now for a large chunk of Kansas into northeast Kansas as well, and southeast Nebraska. This is where there is going to be a threat today for a few tornadoes, widespread tennis ball sized hail, as well as damaging winds up to 75 miles per hour will be a possibility. So once again, it's going to be a very active day, and that is a new tornado watch now for Kansas. Thank you, Kale, also for becoming a moderate velocity member. Thank you, Eric, for that. And also, by the way, you guys, if you have any photos or videos that you want to send in to me, you can tweet me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. If you see any reports on Twitter, you can also at me on those. And also make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'll be posting updates on there throughout the day. And also follow us on Facebook at MaxVelocityWX. All those links are down in the description below. And we're also on Discord. The link to that is also down below. Thank you, Joe, by the way. Appreciate that. Cheese curds. We're going to need some cheese curds after this weekend, I got to tell you. And after my final exam. I still have 4 final exams to go over the next like 5 days. It is brutal. Brutal with that and severe weather. I mean, the odds of one city, like even Kansas City, being hit by a tornado, it's low. I mean, when you think about it, you know, a tornado probability like today, let me just pull it up on the SPC Outlook. So they have a 15% chance for tornadoes. It's that hatched area. The chances of you seeing a tornado within a 25-mile radius, all right, like this blue circle there, you see that right there? That's just southwest of Tulsa, that blue circle. That is a 25-mile radius. Okay? That is your odds of seeing a tornado. It's 15%. It's not, you know, it's not super high when you think about it, when you think about it statistically. Now, with that being said, that 15% chance in a 25-mile radius, if we, you know, condense that number down, let's just say we go into let's say we go into a 1-mile radius. All right, let's do a 1-mile radius somewhere in here. I'm gonna use, like, I don't know. We'll use Tulsa, for example. All right. So this is a 1-mile radius right here. That 1-mile radius, you probably have like a 1 or 2% chance of a tornado. Think of it that way. All right. The chances of you seeing a tornado today are still very low, you know, technically. With that said, though, there are going to be strong and long track tornadoes later today that are going to be potentially dangerous, potentially catastrophic. So either way you split it, I mean, even if your chances in a one spot is like 2% like this, which includes like a few neighborhoods here near Jenks, Oklahoma, I mean, like, your chances might still be low statistically, but obviously today is a day to be worried about because you want to make sure that you're staying very vigilant, because if you do end up in a tornado warning and there's a strong tornado on the ground, it's going to be heading right toward you if you're in that tornado warning, because these tornadoes in nature today will probably be on the larger side of things and on the stronger side of things across Oklahoma, Kansas, and even into North Texas. So today is a day that you don't want to be messing around with. Even when you think about statistically, though, again, your chances of seeing a tornado are still very, very low statistically. But obviously, if you are under a tornado warning later today, that is when you're going to have to definitely make sure you are getting to your safe place, because today's a day where we're really not talking about weak tornadoes. There will probably be a few weak tornadoes, but the tornadoes today that we're going to see are going to be in the variety of very strong tornadoes, because the winds near the surface and even throughout a large chunk of the atmosphere are just so strong. And we saw it yesterday where there was some violent motion with those storms. I mean, we had some very strong rotation and spin on a lot of those storms yesterday. And that could happen again today, where these tornadoes are spinning very fast near the surface. They're cranking, and that would indicate, again, a strong tornado, which we had many of those yesterday. And yesterday's environment debatably was not nearly as favorable as today's. But today's is going to be more of an issue if we end up getting more of a linear line of storms today. These storms may struggle a little bit more to maximize that tornado threat. But if they do remain more discrete in nature, the tornado threat is going to be definitely significant. So hopefully that makes sense. Dallas-Fort Worth is going to have 2 chances for storms. Tonight's is more likely. This afternoon, we have a cap. If that cap is overcome, we will have some supercells capable of all modes of severe weather, including damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. But if the cap stays in place, we're watching for a damaging wind threat, which will move through as we go into late tonight into the overnight hours. By the way, here's that tornado watch that has been issued for Kansas that is still being updated. It's not fully in place here yet. Oh, now it is. That is your tornado watch now for Kansas. What's my final about? It's about weather. QG theory is one of the topics. Got cold air damming. Got like some synoptic overviews of other stuff too. Cold core highs, cold core lows. We got all sorts of stuff. Got some rotation developing right now near Fairview. Definitely at least something developing there, moving northeast. That could produce something. We'll have to watch that closely. So if in case it does produce, I'm going to use the bathroom real quick. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right. By the way, we have had some recent reports of golf ball sized hail in this storm that is moving towards Clio Springs and Helena. So this storm is definitely still pretty strong, producing the threat once again of some large hail and damaging winds. Large hail being a greater concern here. Now, the radar site back down near Norman has been showing strong rotation, but that's aloft. So we definitely have been seeing at least some sort of rotation off the ground near Fairview. So there might be some sort of maybe lowering, but once again, the surface rotation has not been very impressive on this storm yet. But it is something that looks like it is trying to cycle and maybe produce something down the road. So we'll have to watch that closely as it continues to move northeast, eventually going towards Helena, Jet, and as well as areas just south of Cherokee. Or Cherry Oak. No, Cherokee. I got it right. There probably is a wall cloud. I mean, the rotation is definitely strong enough from away from the radar. So, you know, from a distance for there to be a wall cloud. Cherokee, thank you. Tornadoes struggle today. We're nowhere even close to the peak. We're like nowhere even close. I mean, we're still, you know, hours from the peak. You know, the peak tornado threat for today is not even supposed to be until like 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. It's, you know, I went live early more because of the fact that I have to go take a final exam in like 2 hours. So I was doing more of this for a forecast and then some coverage the first couple of hours, and then we'll be live again after that. But yeah, I mean, we're super far away from the peak. There's no significant tornado risk in Wisconsin today. Cherokee. Did I not say that? Maybe I didn't. I'm trying to find that graph from earlier. I don't know where it went. I accidentally exited out of it. There's a graph that shows the tornado threat specifically for Oklahoma City. Somewhere. Might have been posted by the SPC. I don't know where it is. Does anybody know where that graph I showed at the beginning of the stream, does anybody know where that is? For those that know what I'm talking about. Or where it's posted. I don't know where I put it. I had a graphic up on here earlier. I found it. Never mind. All right, here's the graphic that shows you like the peak tornado threat for Oklahoma City, for example. So this is essentially showing you when the peak time for all these threats is going to be. But this is for Oklahoma City. So basically central Oklahoma in general. So this is the probability of something like a severe weather threat occurring within a 25-mile radius. All right. So we got large hail as the main concern across Oklahoma. And this is about a 45%, almost a 50% chance of large hail within a 25-mile radius. And that hail could be larger than the size of 2 inches in diameter. The damaging wind risk is a bit lower. It's near like 20 to 25% within a 25-mile radius. And then that tornado risk peaks here between about 5 p.m. and about 9 p.m. Notice where we're at right now. The tornado risk is really low from now until 1. It really does not ramp up until this point here, right around about 2 p.m. is when it really starts to get going. But 3 to 4 p.m., that's when the big increase is going to happen for the tornado threat. And then by 5 p.m. and 6 p.m., this is the entire peak. So the greatest chance for strong, long-track tornadoes today is going to basically be between 5 and about 9:30. After that, it starts to go down slowly but surely, but we'll still have tornadoes out there. But once again, this is for Oklahoma City specifically, but you know, it basically includes anywhere in central Oklahoma. This is a golf ball sized hail, by the way, that just crossed over Route 412 that is heading towards Carmen and Helena near Clio Springs in northwest Oklahoma. So that storm is continuing to produce some hail. We don't really have a whole lot of rotation near the surface, and the rotation looks like it's broadened out aloft. So I wouldn't say it's a super big concern right now, but we'll continue to keep a close eye on it. More of a hail threat at this point, and also a damaging wind threat as that continues to move northeast. It's warming up with breaks in the sun, or breaks in the clouds in central Oklahoma. Here's the Radar Omega live cam in Norman, Oklahoma. The winds are very strong, by the way. This is live. We don't have any storms in the area. The winds are strong. All right. And what that means is that we have very strong winds near the surface, and that usually actually helps to produce strong tornadoes. So in this case, that's not a good thing for Oklahoma. It's been very windy today. The wind is measured on here. It's the last 5 minutes. It's been around 20 miles per hour, but I think it's probably a bit stronger than that. Temperatures near 80 degrees, dew points at 70, so a very buoyant atmosphere here in Oklahoma. Here's the satellite imagery. So right now we got a bunch of massive storms that have developed across northwest Oklahoma and southern Kansas. That was as expected. These are not the storms that are producing the significant tornado threat, at least for now. They'll be increasing later today. But we do have some breaks in the sun in some areas. It's minimal, but we do have some breaks. And that's primarily from northeast Oklahoma back into central Oklahoma. And also a couple back over in North Texas. But if DFW gets a lot more sun later today, I think there will be a better shot for that cap eroding. But if it stays pretty cloudy like it is now, it might be a struggle. But for those in Oklahoma City and most of Oklahoma, there's a lot of instability already, and the cap is not going to be a big factor today. I think the storms are not really going to struggle in this sort of environment with how really intense the environment is today, aloft and throughout the entire atmosphere. We got very solid moisture. We got a lot of instability. We got a lot of wind shear. It's a very favorable environment again across most of Oklahoma, southern Kansas, and as well as even in North Texas. Topeka does not have an issue with a cap. At least I don't think. Let me check. The main area where there is an issue with the cap is primarily just in North Texas. So south of the Red River. So here's Wichita's sounding. There actually is a cap, but that will be overcome. It's not really a significant cap. And that was at 6 or 7 in the morning. So the temperatures have already warmed up there. Burlington is right now 75, so it's probably near 75 there. We don't have any tornado warning or tornado ratings from yesterday. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. I'm guessing I know who you are. I could be wrong. What are my thoughts on Joplin today? I don't think Joplin's really in the bullseye today for tornadoes. I think, honestly, more than anything, we're talking about a damaging wind threat more than anything. So let me just run through the timing again real quick. We'll kind of skip to the later half of today just for that area in particular. But you'll kind of see here, the only discrete and semi-discrete cells that we have are going to stretch from northern parts of Texas all the way back into central and northern Kansas. That's where most of the strong to severe storms will be, and most of the discrete supercells will be as well, right around 4 o'clock. If we jump to about 8, that is when we have more of the linear area of storms trying to develop in central and southern Oklahoma. And then once we get closer to 10 to 11, this becomes more linear and would eventually run into parts of southwestern Missouri and much of Missouri, actually, and then also throughout parts of Oklahoma. But it's going to be more linear. So we're talking more about a damaging wind threat today with this Boeing segment that would eventually go into Missouri. We could also see a couple tornadoes, but it would be embedded in that line of storms. So that'll happen very late tonight into the overnight hours. And then by tomorrow morning, we just have a huge line of storms. Yeah, Joplin is in the 15% tornado risk, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit kind of far to the east of that area. You're in the moderate, but I think the greatest concern will still be to your west. Because I don't think we're going to have as much discrete activity there Unless we get something going maybe during the late evening, like this. The HRRR kind of shows that. You can even look at a recent run. Let's do this. But again, you can kind of see here, like, there isn't really a whole lot when it comes to discrete supercellular activity this afternoon. It's mostly a linear area of storms. So. Yes, Chris, thank you. Yes, I am, unfortunately. All right. Thank you, Brad, for the $5 super chat. Later this evening into the overnight, there'll be a significant, or will be significant, as well as the low-level jet will kick in and will set the lower layers of the atmosphere into motion. Yeah, the low-level jet's going to be cranking today. And I can pull up a map of that. This is the low-level jet for today. So notice how it's going to crank up later today. This is about right now. So it's going to start to intensify this afternoon, but it really strengthens this evening. And right near that area of where that line of storms will develop too, we get a really strong kick of that low-level jet with some areas near 60 to 70 knots. That's very intense, which means that, again, it would be pretty easy for storms to produce tornadoes in this sort of environment as these storms continue to develop and as they really move to the east throughout the late evening and eventually into the overnight hours. Tomorrow is also going to be pretty strong. I don't know if we're going to have a significant threat for tornadoes tomorrow, but we'll definitely have a chance for a few tornadoes with how strong the low-level jet will be. With that all said, once again, I do think the greatest concern is going to be really from about 4 to 8 or so, maybe 9 o'clock. Sandy, it is Radar Omega. You can download it with the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. That is the weather radar that we're currently using, and if you need a weather radar for today and you want to stay ahead of the storms, you can download Radar Omega on your iOS and Android device. Once again, that is the top link in the description below. The app costs $8.99 for the base version. Comes with live radar, including the reflectivity, velocities, correlation coefficient, a bunch of other stuff. In addition to that, it comes with a handy-dandy tracking tool, so you can track out storms that are coming toward your location. One of the coolest features is that they have live storm chasers in the app. We got a line of storm chasers, including Connor Croft, that are currently going to Oklahoma right now. You can track their location in real time to see what storm they're on. In addition to watching their live feed, they also have live cameras like this one back over in Norman, Oklahoma. So you can check it out, top link in the description below on iOS and Android. There's also computer models, satellite imagery, 3D radar, and much more with their subscriptions that they have as well, if you want more features. But the base app comes with a ton of stuff. And once again, you can download it on Radar Omega, top link in the description below on iOS and Android. I do appreciate Radar Omega for sponsoring today's live stream. By the way, this is the 3D radar. You can kind of see the storms. They look like mountains. Pretty cool view of this, though. The significant hail core you can see popping up here, that black area near Fairview, Oklahoma. And that is where right now we do have a pretty significant hail core rolling into Clio Springs with golf ball-sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds. And once again, there has been a little bit of rotation with this. It hasn't been enough to issue a tornado warning, but we'll have to continue to watch this storm as it moves more to the northeast. I would say right now it's more than anything a damaging wind and hail threat, but we may see something try to develop there with a tornado threat down the road. Dustin, 15,000 is the record, which was a week ago. Emma, this is Radar Omega. It is the top link in the description below to download. Thank you, Carlos, for the $4.99. Privacy reasons I'm not going to say. And then the sun out here in Dallas, does that mean... What does that mean for the forecast? It basically means the temperature is increasing, so the cap is going to be more prone to be overcome. Now, the HRRR model, which is a model I use very frequently to just show the future radar, still doesn't really show that cap being overcome tonight. That could obviously change. I think the big thing at this point is going to be how warm the temperatures get near the surface and if the temperature cools enough in the atmosphere. At this point, it's very questionable if the cap is going to be overcome. I'm leaning towards it won't, But obviously, if it is overcome, in the rare case it is overcome, we haven't had many events, honestly, in Texas that the cap has been overcome when we are on the edge of there being a cap or not being a cap. Like, almost all the time it holds. But, you know, in the rare case that the cap doesn't hold, we are going to have that threat for strong tornadoes and very large hail. And if storms fire up, it'll probably be around 5 o'clock or so, 4 to 5. So that is really the time where we have to stay very vigilant there. But once again, storms may or may not fire up. It's going to be something to watch for. It's bad if the cap is overcome, because essentially what I'm talking about is that temperature inversion in the atmosphere. As you go up, the temperature should be decreasing, but instead there's an increasing spot, and that increasing spot prevents storms from building up. So that does not happen. It kind of just stops. But if that cap's overcome by warmer temperatures near the surface or warmer temperature or cooler temperatures aloft, then it would be more of a straight line like this. The temperature is decreasing throughout the atmosphere, and what that means is that we are going to have storms that can build up very easily. So the cap is your friend, as somebody just said in the chat. It's pretty much how it goes. Yeah, Wichita Falls cap is much weaker. Much, much weaker. And again, when I talk about the cap, I'm never talking about a hat. And this is no cap. We're not talking about that cap either. This is no cap today. Lacey, let me look. By the way, if I missed any super chats, I do apologize. We've had a bunch. Let me see. How far back is yours, Lacey? I don't see it. Is it really far back? Thank you, Heidi, for the $20 from earlier. I appreciate your generosity. Sorry, I missed that too. I don't see Lacey in here anywhere. Also, Deb asked earlier with the $20 super chat, will there be long track tornadoes today? Yes, again, long track tornadoes are possible, and that would especially be a more higher likelihood in this area here, which would be in western Oklahoma. That's where they would begin. And if we get any long track tornadoes going, they would just continue to keep going, you know, towards central Oklahoma. But that's more of a threat this afternoon. I'm gonna be honest, Lacey, I've been scrolling. I've not seen anything. So I don't know if it, you know, maybe it didn't go through or something, but I don't see anything. Unless your name's different on here. Oh, okay, your name starts with Lucky. Sorry. How will these storms impact central Ohio? Ohio's not going to be impacted by these storms at all. The threat of severe weather, let me just quickly give you a breakdown here. So this is today's severe weather threat. So obviously, again, we've shown this a lot of times, but this is the threat, right? We got that moderate risk across Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma, and even a little sliver there of Texas. And then as we go into tomorrow, the threat for now is still a slight risk. They may upgrade this to an enhanced, we'll see. More for damaging wind threat probably, but there's certainly a slight risk across most of the Midwest or lower Midwest back into the Southern Plains. We do have a marginal threat that goes all the way back over closer to Chicago. And then going into Monday, there's almost no risk. We're done. By Monday, we're done. Pretty much. Only got a marginal threat. Now, we will probably have some storms on Monday in like Ohio Valley and stuff, but if there's any severe weather, it's going to be very low. And same thing with Tuesday. So we'll be live again today. We'll be live again more than likely tomorrow. And then Monday, Tuesday, we'll have a break. We'll have a good break. And also, beyond today, just for reference, for those that are wondering about the long term here across the country, and not just today, Looks like we won't have really any crazy severe weather on Monday or Tuesday. Severe weather may return by Thursday or late Wednesday into Thursday. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it could get kind of active, but nothing super organized currently in the forecast so beyond today and tomorrow. So there will be some threats beyond today, but it's a little bit lower of a threat overall. We got a really large hail core right now heading into Cleo Springs, Oklahoma. This has been a pretty impressive hail core on radar. All that black that you're seeing on radar, that is representing large to potentially even some very large hail moving northeast. It is currently warned for golf ball sized hail, and we've had reports of golf ball sized hail with this storm. So definitely keep that in mind. This is from Parker on Twitter. Sun is poking through in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the sun is kind of breaking through, and what that means is that there's more instability growing into the atmosphere, and overall the environment is going to be becoming more favorable for severe weather here as we go into the afternoon. Thank you, Fantasy, for the $5 super chat. How do you feel about Omaha, Nebraska today? I don't think we're going to have any problems really up there. I think really overall the main concern is going to be to your south. You might get some damaging winds, maybe some large hail. You're kind of on the cusp there of that particular threat that's going to be evolving here later this afternoon, but I wouldn't be super concerned if you're in Omaha. Obviously, yesterday was a big day. Today should hopefully be a quieter day there, but you probably will still have some storms. I just don't think they're going to be significant. It's the cap temperature limit for Texas. I would have to do math on that. I'm pretty sure it's like mid to upper 80s. But I'll have to like kind of do math on that. I'll pull up the sounding from this morning. It kind of depends though, because we don't have a recent sounding. It's from this morning, so we don't really have like a definitive view of what the cap is right now. We have one from a few hours ago, but not something now. It would have to be in the upper 80s or low 90s, I believe, for that to be overcome. Now, that could always change. Again, if the temperatures cool a little bit higher up in the atmosphere, which they very easily could a little bit, that could change. But it's probably going to be the upper 80s or so, which today is not forecasted to get there. So more than likely, the cap will stay in place, but we'll see. Thank you, Stoll, for the very generous $50 donation. I really do appreciate that. If you, thank you very much for that generous super chat. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you, Stoll. Put some hearts in the chat for Stoll. It's very generous. I don't want the cap to break. I don't think anybody wants the cap to break. Thank you, Spectrum, as well, for becoming a minimum velocity member. I do appreciate that, and welcome to the velocities. Looks like it's ramping up on radar. I mean, it's not really ramping up right now. I think it's been kind of the same thing for the last few hours. The only thing that has ramped up is this hailstorm. That's about it. We don't have any, like, rotation with it, really. It's mostly just golf ball-sized hail. The storm that moved into Kansas has also not been overly impressive. It's been honestly pretty mediocre at this point. This is the one that did produce a couple of tornado warnings earlier. We didn't have a confirmed tornado on anything, but there were tornado warnings with this storm earlier. Now it's moving into southern Kansas, but once again, not super impressed by that activity right now. Once we go into the afternoon, though, that is when this activity will probably become a lot more impressive, including this storm near Quanah, by the way. We got a live cam in Quanah, and we might have to pull that up because that storm is beginning to form a little hook right now, moving northeast. We do have two different shots of Quanah, so I'm going to see if I can pull up the other one. Here's the live view in Quanah on Virtual Railfan. It's a little bit blurry. It should focus in here a little bit, but dark skies on the left. Wind is whipping. The storm would be on the left side of your screen, so we don't have a great view of the storm yet, but once we get a better view, we'll go back to the virtual railfan camera. Definitely got a little hook developing on this storm. Have to watch it closely. Alan, I saw that photo on Twitter, so I don't know exactly where you find that on their website. I can't remember what the link was. There's a place to find it. I just don't know where it is. Thank you, F, for the $5 super chat. That's awesome. Computer engineer major. That must be difficult. Engineer majors have to do a ton of math and stuff. That's just crazy. Crazy stuff. I mean, as meteorologists, you also have to. They gotta do a bunch of calculus, differential equations. Anybody? Anybody for that? It's brutal. It's a brutal stretch. What's the trampoline meter at? Today's flying trampoline meter is at the highest level that can possibly be issued. And it is at a gone forever stage, not the toilet paper meter. Sorry. This is the flying trampoline meter for today. So I've gone ahead and issued the highest flying trampoline meter that you can get at a gone forever stage. What that essentially means is that a flying trampoline outbreak is likely today with any trampolines that are not hatched down. The winds are already strong out there without storms. They're around 40 miles per hour. And when you add in severe weather and tornadoes today, that flying trampoline meter is going to be off the charts today. So a flying trampoline outbreak is very likely today. Also have a storm developing just northwest of Wichita Falls now, so we'll have to watch that closely. Not a super favorable spot for it, but it'll be something to watch. Sunshine does not build the cap, no. Unless the sunshine is cooling down the atmosphere. Unless the sun has all of a sudden gone cold. That'd be the only way. No, because when the sun is out, I mean, you're talking about temperatures increasing. So when temperatures increase, that means that overall, you know, the temperatures are increasing, and that means the cap is basically kind of lessening. Because once again, if you have temperature at the surface, let's say is 70 degrees or whatever, and then this is your temperature inversion, and then you go up. So if the temperature increases by 5 degrees to 75 degrees, all of a sudden, and that's because of the sun, let's just say, all of a sudden the cap is going to be more like this. So it's a lot weaker in nature. And then when it gets to 80 degrees, well, it's overcome. So, I mean, that's basically what we're talking about when it comes to the cap. Again, if the sun is out and it's heating the atmosphere, which most of the time it does, unless we're at sunset or something, you know, it's going to increase the temperature and it's going to weaken the cap if there's a cap in place. Which, once again, all of North Texas right now has a cap. And I'm not capping about that. Where's Jaws? I haven't seen Jaws in a while. New outlook at 12:30. Yeah, we do have a new Storm Prediction Center outlook coming out in a few minutes for tomorrow. So we will have to wait and see what they say there. There will be a new tornado watch in Oklahoma here in about 30 minutes as well. And that could be a PDS tornado watch, which means a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, which is a rare situation. Does not happen very often. And that could be issued here relatively soon. We don't usually get PDS tornado watches. It basically means that the atmosphere is favorable for strong and or large and potentially long track tornadoes. Does not mean we're going to imminently have a tornado. It just means that, again, that's, you know, it's the atmosphere is favorable. It's favorable for tornadoes. Have I had lunch? I mean, I had breakfast. Friendly reminder, by the way, this stream is going to be going for approximately 45 more minutes to an hour. After that, I have to take a final exam. I've mentioned it a few times. The stream will end right around 1:15 to 1:30 or so Central Time. And then after that, we'll be back for live coverage, probably around 4-ish, 4:30. Try to go live as soon as possible after that. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel down below and click the bell icon down below so you're notified when we go live again. But once again, we're going to be live here for at least another 45 minutes to an hour. And then from there, we'll be live after that. It is an uncontrollable thing. I cannot control it. I have asked my professor if I could push out the exam. I could not. So, just for those that are wondering, he does not want me to push it out. Just an FYI. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Sounds good, Matthew. What fine am I taking? It's weather. It's basically synoptic weather. So, there's like QG theory. There's cold air damming. A bunch of other stuff. It's a lot of random like weather stuff, like forecasting tools like the Moss, or other stuff like that. So it's a lot of really random stuff overall, but it has a lot to do with just weather forecasting in general. You're gonna ace it without trying? I don't know about acing it. There's a lot of equations too. Got the QG vorticity equation. Bunch of other stuff. There's a lot of weird things. Thank you, John, for the $10 super chat. What's the time frame for southern Wisconsin? Southern Wisconsin is mostly this afternoon. I'll quickly run through the future radar here. I'll give you an idea of timing here. But storms will fire up right around 5-6 o'clock, so late afternoon, early evening. So this would be 5, then 6, then 7. So some storms will fire up. We'll have a couple rounds of them. Main concern with these will be damaging winds and hail, and then perhaps maybe an isolated tornado. But overall, it's mostly just hail and wind. Why am I not studying? I don't really need a high grade on the exam, 1, and then 2, for like my grade to be good. And then I also have already studied. I studied after the live stream last night, and also studied this morning. I had 5 hours of sleep last night. I don't know how in the world you know, I'm actually fully awake, but I had like no sleep last night. I usually get like 8, and it was 5 last night. It was horrendous. Went to bed around 2, and I got up at like 7. So, but we're doing good. I honestly, I feel good. You know, I don't feel fatigued at all. I actually feel pretty good today. Which is shocking, because usually I struggle off of that little amount of sleep. But I got McDonald's this morning. We got some Diet Coke, you know. We're chilling. No cap. Thank you, Kira, for the $5 super chat. Thank you, CJ. Topeka, Kansas. More than likely, more of a hail and wind threat. Maybe an isolated tornado or 2. That'll be more during the late afternoon into the evening. Iowa and Mississippi border? You're talking about... I'm guessing you're... Oh, Missouri. Oh, sorry. I read that as Mississippi. Sorry. Iowa and Missouri border. Iowa and Missouri border, it's mostly going to be a... It's more going to be a hail threat and a wind threat, but more hail than anything if you get anything. Maybe an isolated tornado, but the greater concern will be to your south. I'm not super concerned about that area, but hail and wind is what I'd be most concerned about. And then again, maybe an isolated tornado or 2. I would say the weather is becoming more predictable, not more unpredictable. The reason why is because we have a lot more data year by year that we can calibrate into these computer models and essentially build up a better standing computer model and such that can eventually, you know, be very accurate for, you know, weather in general, all computer models. So I don't think the weather's becoming more unpredictable by any means. I think it's becoming much more predictable. By the way, new SPC outlook for tomorrow has just come out. There is still a slight risk for severe weather. They have not issued any enhanced risk. It is still a 5% tornado risk across North Texas, back into Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, even parts of western Illinois, and as well as eastern Oklahoma. And then the wind and hail threat, pretty much identical. They are very overall lower. They're kind of low threats, low to medium threats. Tornado threat lower than the wind and hail threat, obviously, but a few tornadoes will be possible tomorrow. And I'm not sure if they mentioned anything about an upgrade here to maybe an enhanced, but I don't think they did. So as of right now, that is just going to stay as a slight risk for severe weather. And once again, we'll probably be live again tomorrow for that threat. So again, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel by clicking the red button down below and subscribing, and click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live. We got a significant hailstorm right now approaching Quanah, Texas. Once again, this is a storm that is producing up to golf ball, I believe now, hail. Yeah, golf ball sized hail is approaching Quanah. We do have a live cam right side of your screen in Quanah. It's looking a bit more north, so not really a view of the storm. But we do have another camera that I'm not showing on there. It's this one on Virtual Railfan. And notice how dark the skies are. The storm is on the left side of your screen. And once again, this storm is producing some significant hail right now as it moves into Quanah, Texas. So just heads up there if you're in Quanah, and make sure that you're staying away from windows as this hailstorm approaches. All right. Thank you, Semp, for becoming a moderate velocity member. Thank you, Cheyenne, for the $4.99. Do you think Chicago will get tornadoes? I don't think so. It's a very low chance, maybe like an isolated tornado, but it's not gonna be much. And Central Colorado. Let me check about Colorado. I don't think Colorado's really in a risk. It's a very low risk. Yeah, there's a slight here, but more than anything, it's more hail. It's not really a tornado risk per se. If there is a tornado, it's gonna be like a low chance. I'd say more of a landspout potential more than anything. I'm not super concerned, though, about Colorado. I would say more than anything, I'd be expecting more of a threat for large hail, and then maybe an isolated tornado. Maybe 2 tornadoes. That'd be really the main concern. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning, and only the second of the day for Kansas. This one is just northwest of Manhattan for half-dollar sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds. That's moving northeast. Also, thank you, MC, for the $4.99. Do appreciate that. What settings do I use? I have a custom color table, so if you're wondering about what the this color table that I'm using on Radar Omega, you can download it on our Discord server. The link to that is in the description. Weather 2020 predict the storms back in February. Are they the ones that predicted an EF6 tornado too? They predict a Category 6 hurricane coming to the United States. I don't know if we're talking about TikTok here. I know TikTok has some crazy stuff, though. There's a little bit of rotation, by the way, near Helena. It's a broad area of circulation that is developing. This is pretty much outflow driven, but there's a little bit of rotation there. Not overly strong, but it's trying. It's near Helena, Oklahoma. If you have not heard anything about EF6 tornadoes or Category 6 hurricanes, it's TikTok stuff. They do not exist, by the way. But if you've not heard about it, it's because you don't watch TikTok. Because we had a whole thing last year, or I think it was earlier this year and also last year, where there was supposed to be an EF6 or EF6 tornado happening, a Category 6 hurricane making landfall. None of that ever happened, by the way, just for reference. But yeah, it's TikTok. What do you expect? I do not recommend you ever eating hail. You don't know what in the world is in that hail. That could be literally anything. It's not much. I mean, again, most of this activity here is outflow driven. We do have a little bit of rotation there that could try to develop, but it's very... I think it's going to be very hard for that storm to develop, with it being, for the most part, outflow driven right now. We have another severe thunderstorm warning, and now in Texas, we got a new one for 70-mile-per-hour damaging winds and half-dollar-sized hail near Jayton. That is west of Seymour. That also has a bit of a hook developing on it, so I'll have to watch that storm closely. And then once again in Kewanna, Texas right now, we do have a massive hailstorm coming there. We do have a live cam on the right side of your screen that is in Kewanna, Texas. So I'll be watching that storm closely. Memes, what that means is it's just a general thunderstorm outlook. So anytime you see that light green color, that just means general thunderstorms are possible. It does not mean severe weather. Though there could be isolated severe weather, it usually doesn't mean severe weather. Ordinary / general thunderstorms, which is just like, you know, lightning, maybe some small hail or gusty winds. That's about it. No problem. I'm not going to be late for my exam, don't worry. I have literally an alarm. I have a visual of the clock. I'm good. I'm good to go. I have my notes right beside me. I've been kind of glaring at them a couple times, but I'm pretty good. Pretty good to go. Hey, Maximus for the 499. Two-part question. What do you think about DFW today and the velocity radar? Why does it sometimes show colors other than red and green? Sometimes it's just a glitch with contamination and stuff. Just kind of depends. I mean, if you kind of see this, like this is just range folding right here. I think. Let me look. Yes, the 80-mile-per-hour winds and buoy right now. Sometimes it's just a bug or a glitch, just some sort of error that the radar's picking up on. What's your other question? That's really about it. Sometimes it's just contamination too. I mean, when we saw that large tornado yesterday near Waterloo, the velocities actually were starting to get to the point where you couldn't even see them because of how high they were. So that was a pretty crazy moment. And what do I think about DFW today? I honestly think the cap will hold in North Texas, and that's in here. There will probably be a cap here. If that cap is overcome, though, all modes of severe weather will be possible later this afternoon between about 4 and 8, with very large hail, damaging winds, and a tornado threat being very likely if that happens. But, again, the probabilities of that right now do remain, you know, lower. I do think we'll have a round of storms, though, tonight. All right. This is an emergency alert. We have a PDS tornado watch that has officially been issued for Oklahoma. Now, I don't have some sort of special sound effect to go with this, but a PDS tornado watch has been issued for central and western Oklahoma. This goes until 8 p.m. tonight. Several strong tornadoes are likely. That's the wording. Several strong tornadoes are likely today in central and western Oklahoma. Widespread hail up to the size of apples is likely. And also, damaging winds that are widespread up to 75 miles per hour is likely. So again, that is brand new information. This is, I don't know the last time we had a PDS tornado watch. Does anybody have history on that? I think it's been a while. I feel like it's been about a year since we've had this. This is not something that happens very often. Same thing goes for like tornado emergencies and PDS tornado warnings. Those don't happen very often, but when they do, they're very dangerous. What this means, for the record, because I know a lot of people are wondering, what does this exactly mean? What is a PDS? Or what is even PDS? What does that mean? It means that this is a particularly dangerous situation. where strong, long-tracked, and potentially even violent tornadoes will be possible today. So again, the primary threats are several tornadoes, and a few intense tornadoes are likely. Intense tornadoes means that EF3 plus tornadoes will be possible. Widespread large hail and scattered very large hail will be possible, up to 3 inches in diameter, which is the size of apples. And then widespread damaging winds and isolated significant damaging winds up to 75 miles per hour will also be possible. A tornado watch should be popping up on Radar Omega here in a minute. So this is what the Storm Prediction Center has mentioned. Intense thunderstorms are expected to develop this afternoon along and east of a dry line over western Oklahoma and northwest Texas. Supercells are expected, capable of large hail, damaging winds. The most intense supercells will also produce strong and potentially long-tracked tornadoes. This goes again until 8 p.m. tonight. And just for reference, I'm going to zoom in here. There is a high risk, or high likelihood, I should say, of tornadoes, EF2 tornadoes, severe wind, severe hail, and severe 2-inch plus hail. And then a moderate risk for 75 plus mile per hour winds. Here are the probabilities that they've also listed here. We have an 80% chance of there being 2 or more tornadoes in the tornado watch. We have a probability of 1 or more tornadoes that are strong at 80%, so a strong tornado at this point is quite likely in this particular environment. Wind also, pretty high event, so 10 or more severe wind reports, 80% chance of that. And then the probability of 6 or more combined severe hail and wind threats, that's almost guaranteed with this event. So, once again, very rare situation, but we do have a PDS, which is a particularly dangerous situation, tornado watch that is in effect across a large chunk of central and western Oklahoma until 8 p.m. tonight. What this means is if you are anywhere in this area, you need to make sure that you are staying very vigilant, have flashlights ready, have your tornado action plan in place. If you're in a mobile home, you need to find a sturdy structure elsewhere, because mobile homes are not going to be safe today if you're under a tornado warning. You need to make sure that you're prepared in all facets. Hatch down trampolines, bring any loose line items inside. It's already been windy today, and it's going to get more windy with these storms later today. But this is a particularly dangerous situation, once again, for Oklahoma. And that tornado watch will reappear here in probably a minute or so. But once again, today is going to be a very busy and a very active day here across Oklahoma. And that's a fairly rare situation. Once again, a particularly dangerous situation. Tornado watch. Did anybody say when the last one we had was in chat? I don't know when the last one was. March 23rd, 2020, or March 31st, 2023, I think was the last time we had a PDS tornado watch. That's what I think. I think that's true. I don't think we've had anything between that. So if that is true, the last time we had a PDS tornado watch was back on March 31st, when we had 2 different high risks for severe weather. One of them being in the Midwest, and then one of which was back down in, I think, Arkansas or Tennessee, kind of in that area. And that day that we had that PDS tornado watch, granted the environment I would say was more favorable than this one. That day we had like 3 or 4 tornado emergencies. We may have had more. So by the looks of it, Oklahoma City is not in this PDS tornado watch. With that said, though, I would still stay very vigilant because you are not far from it. Let me just double check. Yeah, Oklahoma City in particular is not in this PDS watch. The cutoff line is this right here. Now, with that said, I would still take it seriously. I'd still take it as if you're in that area, because it's apples to apples, right? We're talking about a very small county here divide. It's not much. You're basically next to it. You're close enough to the threat that you should still be very vigilant and staying very weather aware today. DFW is almost undoubtedly not going to be in a PDS tornado watch. Unless the cap just goes bananas and just goes away. I mean, like, it's highly unlikely that there will be a PDS watch there. I highly doubt it. If there is, again, I would be absolutely shocked. It would require a lot for that to happen. So once again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the red button down below and subscribe to the channel. And Again, we'll keep you posted with the latest throughout the day today. Once again, this live stream will go for about another half an hour, and then I'll be live again after that for tornado coverage across Oklahoma and Texas. It's going to be a busy day today. Be very busy. Thank you, BO99, for the very generous $50 donation. I really do appreciate that. Put some hearts in the chat for BO99. Good luck on your exams. I appreciate it. I only have one exam today, so just one. And then we have 3 more next week. But I do really appreciate that generosity. Thank you. Yeah, they could always expand this PDS Tornado Watch, by the way. It hasn't appeared yet on here. It should soon. But they could always expand this PDS Tornado Watch down the road, you know, if that threat still stays pretty high. I won't be late. Don't worry. I'm good. We're good on time right now. Thank you, Madison, for the $9.99. What does Vernon look like? Vernon's looking more like a hail threat today, but once again, tornado threats elevated here too. With these discrete cells that are firing off right now, I would not be surprised at an elevating tornado threat as we go into the early to mid-afternoon hours. I would be watching this storm the closest right now, if I'm in Vernon or even Quanah. By the way, this storm right now is going right into Quanah. We may have a live cam shot of this storm now on Virtual Railfan. Let me check. Yeah, and this storm right now is producing golf ball sized hail. Oh, look at that. This is Virtual Railfan. This is a live shot of this storm in Virtual Railfan. That is your storm right there that is producing some pretty large hail right now. In Quanah, Texas. That is a massive storm. Now, I'm not seeing any sort of rotation, and by the way, it is a little bit pixelated, but I'm not seeing like any sort of crazy rotation on this, but we got a massive rain shaft, and obviously the hail would be in there, the golf ball sized hail in Quanah, Texas. Again, this is a live shot view of that on Virtual Railfan. Connor is chasing today. I think he starts in about 10 minutes. Yeah, after my stream, I would definitely recommend going to watch him for a little bit. I don't know if on YouTube this might be higher quality. I'm gonna look. I don't think they have it on. Never mind. Oh, maybe they do. No, it's the same quality. And this is the storm right now in Quanah, Texas that you're looking at, the one that is producing golf ball sized hail and the threat for 60-mile-per-hour damaging winds. And once again, this storm is moving northeast right now. It will be moving into southwest Oklahoma here momentarily with golf ball sized hail. You have some rotation, by the way, near Douglas, southeast of Wichita, Kansas. Just heads up there. A little bit of rotation there. From what I'm seeing, though, right now in picture here, I'm not seeing really a whole lot of rotation in this storm. Again, there wasn't really much on radar, but not really seeing that at all right now in picture. Looks like it's more of just a large rain shaft, dark clouds, that sort of thing. I'm not seeing anything crazy here. Where's the best chance for strong tornadoes today? It'll be western Oklahoma. I don't know where Sabetha, Kansas is. I'm going to need some guidance on that. Also, El Dorado, same thing. What part of the state is that? Got some scud cloud over here. On the very far right of your screen, there's a little bit of scud cloud. Just a little bit. Oh, there you go. They're zooming in on the scud cloud. There's your scud cloud. They're like reading my mind over here. I don't know who's controlling the camera, but they're reading my mind. A little bit of scud cloud over there. That doesn't mean anything bad, by the way. It just kind of indicates rising motion. They're often mistaked for tornadoes and funnel clouds and stuff like that. It's SCUD, by the way, not SKUD. All right. Oh, here's the other view. This is the other view on Virtual Railfan. The other live shot. So, rain shaft left side of your screen, that's a storm in Kewanna, Texas. And this is the main shot that we've been looking at for a few minutes. How'd the exam go? I still haven't taken it. I'm taking it in like an hour. Or a little under an hour now. Oh, there's a car. Maybe they know us. Maybe they're gonna wave. Maybe they're gonna wave at the camera. Wave! Wave your arms. Nope, okay. Never mind. Guess I don't know. Alright. We'll go back to this if anything interesting happens. El Dorado's east of Wichita. Also, new severe thunderstorm warning north Burke Burnett. Oh, here's El Dorado. So, main concern anywhere in here, main concern will be really large hail. And maybe a couple tornadoes. They're zooming back in on the top of your screen. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's just scud cloud crap here at the top of your screen. Go back to radar real quick. I'm pretty sure that's just scud in Kewanna, Texas. Let me go back to radar. Verify that real quick. Yeah, I mean, we don't have any rotation on this, so that's just scud or rough clouds near the, near the cloud base. Real quickly, we do have a area of rotation that was on radar. I don't know if it still is. We actually have a couple of them. We got one near Douglas. And then we also have another one. Yeah, that's the main one. So we got one near Douglas. So that is just to the south of El Dorado. But main concern right now for El Dorado will be damaging winds, hail, and maybe a brief tornado threat here over the next hour. Tornado possible has been added to that storm. So they just added a tornado possible label to that storm southeast of Wichita. And that is because of this growing concern here of this rotation near Douglas. And that's going to be approaching Bloomington over the next few minutes. By the way, thank you, Ryan, for the generous $20 donation. I appreciate that. And also thank you, Tate, for the $10 super chat. Oh, I already answered that. Or I got that. Yeah, so El Dorado, main concern again, going to be large hail, damaging winds, maybe an isolated tornado. And that threat right now is going to be within the next, 45 minutes. And then you might see more storms later. This would be round one of most likely 2 or 3 that you'll see here. Not much is happening in the Great Lakes. It's a pretty ordinary severe weather day with damaging winds, hail, and maybe an isolated tornado. Not super concerning today. By the way, make sure to follow us on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. Also, make sure to follow us on Facebook at MaxVelocityWX. We'll be posting updates there throughout the day. And make sure to follow us there on Facebook and Twitter. Links again in the description below. And if you have any photos or videos at any point today, you can at me on Twitter at MaxVelocityWX. If there's something that you want me to see, like a weather report or something like that, or a photo of something, then feel free to also do that
A new
on Twitter.
tornado warning has been issued.
Oh, this is up to the north. I wasn't even paying attention to this far to the north. We got a new tornado warning northwest of Manhattan. This is back up in northeast parts of Kansas. So if you're in this tornado warning, seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible. And that's the rotation right there. It's been strengthening here over the last few minutes. I was not paying attention to this area of storms up here. Kind of forgot we had a storm up here. Yeah, that rotation's intensifying pretty quickly. We could get a tornado with this at any time. Definitely stay in your safe place if you're in Leonardville, Bala, Riley, just west of Route 77 here in northeast Kansas. You need to seek shelter immediately, away from windows, and on the lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. Again, this is a strong pocket of rotation that's approaching Bala, Kansas. Can be moving towards Leonardville. Riley's also in the track of this, near Route 77. So once again, if you are in this tornado warning, seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. That is a bathroom, a storm shelter, a basement. One of those places you've got to be in right now, as this could produce a tornado at any time as it moves more to the northeast over the next several minutes. Once again, it includes Leonardville, Bala, and Riley, just northwest of Manhattan. Storm's been developing for the last few minutes now. See it organizing. Got a little hook developing right now on the back side of this. There's your hook. So you got a hook developing, got an inflow, and tornado will be located right about there. So that's where we're looking for that potential for a tornado. Once again, this could drop a tornado at any time. Rotation's a little bit weaker, it looks like. CC is showing something. I think it's been kind of showing that for a few minutes. Yeah, I don't think that's a CC drop here. Try to verify that here. Yeah, it's not the rotation's not tight here. But again, if we do have a tornado, it'll be right pretty much where that CC was showing. And I'll be approaching in Bala and Leonardville over the next few minutes. And again, we're right now in northeastern Kansas, just to the northwest of Manhattan, Kansas. Once again, this is a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. If you're in this warning, seek shelter immediately, away from windows on the lowest floor possible, in an interior room of your home or building, away from windows, as this could produce a tornado at any time. Just to clarify, is your name Max or Connor? It's in my channel name. I'll have a new velocity scan in a second. The rotation was much stronger there a moment ago once this was near Wakefield. Last couple scans, it's decoupling a little bit. That CC, by the way, is completely gone, so that was just contamination. I'm gonna do scan in a second, hopefully. Connor velocity. I'm in Manhattan, Kansas. Well, luckily that storm's not too close to you. Still well off to your northwest. This is the latest velocity scan. It's a broader area of circulation, so not nearly as intense as before. It's decoupling pretty quickly, but it could recycle. We do have a hook here that's developing. A little hook echo trying to develop just to the northwest of Manhattan. So not too bad right now. Again, we'll keep a close eye on it just in case it tries to drop something. And once again, this is moving northeast, so if you're in this tornado warning, or if you're out in front of this, stay vigilant. If you're in the tornado warning, continue to stay in your safe place. But if you are out in front of this storm, again, make sure that you're staying vigilant, as this storm could drop a tornado at any time as this continues to move northeast. Randolph and Oldsburg, Kansas will be the next areas on the track of this. Here's the latest scan. So again, we still got that hook feature to it. That definitely still exists. If we go back to velocities, which we'll update here in a second. No CC drop, but here are the velocities. Should update here in just a second. Yeah, I'm not seeing much here. It's a pretty weak area of rotation right now. It's not super strong. I mean, this is where the rotation would be. It'd be right over Bala. And so there might be some sort of lowering, maybe a wall cloud or something like that. But near the ground, we don't have anything. So this is, again, not a confirmed tornado by any means. The rotation was much stronger a few scans ago. It's kind of weakened over the last few minutes. So we'll continue to watch this closely as it moves northeast, but I don't think it's an imminent concern. MC, the main concern up that direction would be large hail damaging winds, and there's an isolated tornado threat. But with that said, the tornado threat is going to be more centered to your south. Now, right along the border there of Kansas and Nebraska, I do think there'll be a bit more of an elevated tornado risk, which is already what we're seeing here. But I do think there'll be a bit more of an elevated tornado risk with this storm activity that is across Missouri and Kansas. This is a bit of a wild card area that not many people have been talking about, but I do think we're at least going to get a couple of tornadoes in here, maybe even a few tornadoes out of the storms that develop in this area, including Sabetha. Here's the latest velocity scan. Much weaker velocities on this. So once again, a lot of decoupling here. We're not really seeing much rotation anymore. It's much stronger a couple minutes ago. By the way, this tornado warning does go until 1:30 p.m. So just an FYI. Goes for about 22 more minutes, but obviously if the rotation stays as weak as it is, I highly doubt this will continue for that long. It's really kind of weakened out here over the last few minutes. But once again, we do have a bit of a hook shape here, so that exists. That's about it, though. Not many other features with this storm other than that. There's also a lot of rain out in front of this, which could kind of hurt its chances of producing. Yes, there is a PDS tornado watch that is in effect. For some reason, it didn't pop up on here, and I don't know why. I will have to see. It has something to do with weather alerts. I don't know. I don't know why the PDS watch didn't pop up on here. But there is a PDS tornado watch for western Oklahoma and north central Texas. I'll have to figure that out at some point. For some reason, it didn't show up on here, though. All right, here's the latest velocity scan, and there is really nothing here. Velocities have completely died out on this storm. Lots of lightning. There's probably some hail. There might be some damaging winds, but there's not really any rotation left here. Mine's not PDS. The tornado watch that's in Kansas is not PDS, and Nebraska. The tornado watch that was issued down here in western Oklahoma is PDS, which that means that it is a particularly dangerous situation. That means that strong and large tornadoes are... The environment essentially is favorable for strong and large tornadoes today. And some of those tornadoes could be long-tracked. There isn't really any news for Quanah. Quanah right now it just got missed by that storm, but there was some half-dollar sized hail on the west side there of Quanah. And then this other storm activity, not looking too bad right now. Got a bunch of wind up here. Bunch of damaging wind and hail back over west of Enid, Oklahoma. And then back over near Wichita. We did have a little bit of rotation here earlier. I'm not seeing nearly as much. It's kind of fizzled out, turning into more of a damaging wind threat at this point. So this activity doesn't look too concerning, at least for now. But that obviously, again, could always change. And once again, for those that are thinking this is already a bust, guys, we've barely gotten into the severe weather event. I mean, the peak, again, is from really when the tornado threat will really start to ramp up between now and 3, but it's really going to peak between 4 and 9. So that's the main time frame for strong and large tornadoes. That's when discrete cells will fire up back over in western Oklahoma and southern parts of Kansas, and that's when things are really going to ramp up. So we are still several hours out, really, from the greatest threat for tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. Again, things could very easily ramp up here over the next few hours, and it could get pretty active pretty quickly here across the Great Plains. So, once again, continue to stay vigilant, stay very weather aware, and have multiple ways to receive warnings if you are in the track of these storms today and anywhere in the risk outlined area that I've mentioned a few times today. Tornado warning has been condensed. It is still radar indicated rotation. Still does include Leonardville, Kansas. So again, continue to stay in your safe place, away from windows, lowest floor possible. Yeah, Kansas will have more of a chance during the afternoon and evening too. It'll again, the peak tornado threat, peak weather threat really depends on where you are, but the peak of when there will be strong and long track tornadoes is really from about 4 to 9. That's like the general threat. That's primarily where the red moderate risk is. Outside of that, like if you're in like Dallas, Fort Worth, your peak threat, it could happen this afternoon if the cap goes away, but if the cap stays, you're not going to see any storms really until probably, I don't know, it would probably be after midnight. And that would be a line of storms that would be damaging winds and maybe a couple of tornadoes. Right now, again, very weak rotation. We don't have like anything left on this. So I'm guessing this warning probably will get canceled. Do I have a storm shelter sponsor yet? Guarantee you get one? I do not. Well, the only sponsor we have is Radar Omega on YouTube. At some point down the road, I'm probably going to get a roofing sponsor or something like that too. I have an exam in 1 hour. My exam's actually in 30 minutes. Fun fact. But we'll be good until about probably another 10 to 15 minutes at most. Hey, John, for the $10 super chat. National Weather Service of Omaha says 5 survey teams are finding evidence of at least EF3 strength in some areas. I'm not surprised by that. I mean, those tornadoes, the 2 large tornadoes that we had yesterday were probably at least EF3. So that does not surprise me. I already saw photos of some of the damage, and it looked pretty significant. So, yeah, definitely pretty significant damage. By the way, I don't know when our second stream will start. It's going to depend on what's happening at the given time that we're at. So if there are significant storms happening with, tornadoes already on the ground, we'll go live right around 4. If storms are a little bit slow to start or whatever it might be, we might start closer to 5. It just kind of depends on the trends. So again, make sure you click the bell icon down below so you're notified when we go live on our second stream. Again, we'll be live here probably for another 10 minutes or so. And also make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You have to subscribe to get the icon bell thing popping up down there. No, the exam's in person. Online exams were 3 years ago. It does not exist anymore. Live stream my exam. Yes. Sounds fantastic. Let me just pull up the live chat, and if I have any questions about what I'm doing, you know, you guys can just help out, you know? That'd be just insane. I'm guessing this tornado warning will be canceled. Hey, there's nothing here. There was something earlier, but it's gone. Rotation is gone on that storm for now. Quickly gonna look back down to the south. Once again, we do have 8 severe thunderstorm warnings, and we have 1 tornado warning, and that's the one back up in northeast Kansas. But the severe thunderstorm warnings continue, mostly damaging winds and hail right now with most of these storms. Whoa. What has happened here? We got possibly baseball plus-sized hail falling near Gulfstream, Oklahoma. That is a massive hail core. Look at that thing. That could even be up near softball size. I mean, that's a huge hail core that's developing. That's just developed over the last few scans. Wow, that has some serious reflectivity values. If you are in this area, you should be staying away from windows. This is going to be approaching Nash, Oklahoma, Jet, Oklahoma. There are many areas in the track of this storm. Tornado observed mean? That means that there's a tornado on the ground. And it's either been confirmed by radar or by person. Latest radar scan shows that a little bit smaller, but not nearly as intense. But still a large hail core right now near Hillsdale and Goldtree. It's going to be moving northeast over the next several minutes. That is a significant hail core right now that's in progress, moving northeast. Wow. Reflectivity's kind of gone crazy on this storm. It's not nearly as intense as a moment ago, but that might have been dropping 2 to 3 inch hail, maybe even larger than that. Who should we watch while you're away? Connor Croft. I mean, that's who I would be watching. I don't know. You can also watch any of the other live coverages if you need like actual weather coverage and not a storm chaser. So there should be some, I'm guessing, today. I would hope. It's a moderate risk. Looks like Ryan's going live around 1:30, so he'll be live. How is my final? I don't know. I'm hoping it's good. It's in 30 minutes. 28 minutes now.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
Got a new tornado warning here near Pond Creek in Medford and north of Enid, which was literally just under a tornado warning earlier. So they're already under their second one of the day, and we are only at 1:18 p.m. So again, if you're in this tornado warning, seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible, interior room of your home or building. And that rotation's on this leading spot right here. Let me bring up the CC. They've just had a brief tornado there. There's a little bit of CC drop there, but that would be a tornado if it's on the ground. It's being north of Carrier, approaching Hillsdale, Kremlin, Pond Creek, and Jefferson and Medford. So again, if you're in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your safe place. That is a storm shelter, basement, closet, or bathroom away from windows and on the lowest floor possible, and an interior room of your home or building away from windows. So once again, this storm could produce a tornado at any time. And it is moving to the northeast. This rotation is tightening quickly. Right here near Hillsdale. And there's a chance that this does drop a tornado at any time as it moves to the northeast. It's my alarm for my exam. Again, that's moving northeast right now. It's going to be approaching Pond Creek, Hunter, Jefferson over the next several minutes. So once again, if you are in this tornado warning, continue to stay in your shelter spot, away from windows, and on the lowest floor possible, in an interior room of your home or building, as this continues to move east, northeast, and northeast. It's a very definitive hook, though. Today's going to be a long day, as I mentioned before. We're going to have a lot of tornado warnings, especially later today. And storms like this that don't even look that impressive, you know, on reflectivity, could produce tornadoes. It's that kind of day. So it's going to be a big day today. I still have not taken my final. I keep having people asking. I'm taking my final in literally 25 minutes. So, yeah, we'll be live for probably at most four more minutes or so. And then, again, Ryan should be live here soon. And then Connor Croft is live too. So if you want to watch somebody, Connor Croft will be storm chasing out there here in Oklahoma today. And again, we'll be live again probably around 4-ish p.m. If there are tornadoes ongoing, we'll definitely be live then. If it's a little bit slow, then we'll go live a little bit after that. So that's the plan right now. So, yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that red button down below so you're subscribed. If you need a weather app to stay ahead of the storms today, make sure to download Radar Omega. You can download that with the top link in the description below on iOS and Android. You can also watch Storm Chasers in the app. But we do have a tornado on the ground, it looks like, near Hillsdale. This is closed entirely, and it looks like we have a tornado on the ground near Hillsdale, Oklahoma. Yeah. It's a horrible time to have to end a live stream here soon, but we have a tornado on the ground. More than likely, I'm still trying to get a CC verification and velocities verification. But more likely than not, we now have a tornado in progress near Hillsdale, Oklahoma. Yeah, that's a tornado.
This is an urgent alert. A tornado is on the ground. Seek shelter immediately.
This is a debris signature being picked up by radar near Hillsdale. So again, if you're in Hillsdale, Pond Creek, Jefferson, you've got to run to your safe place away from windows, lowest floor possible. Again, this is now a confirmed tornado. Hasn't been officially confirmed, but we can verify that by radar. It's pretty clear. Got a very definitive hook echo. And once again, this is moving northeast. So I want to remind you again, if you're in Kremlin, Hunter, Pond Creek, or Jefferson, which now this has gone observed. So this is now officially confirmed. Again, confirmed tornado now near Hillsdale, going towards Pond Creek, Jefferson, Medford, and Kremlin. Once again, if you are in this tornado warning, you need to run to your safe place, get away from windows, and on the lowest floor possible. This could be a strong tornado that's in progress. So, could be a dangerous storm right now that's ongoing. We got very tight couplet right now, right over Hillsdale. And so Hillsdale just got hit. It's about to be hitting very rural areas just north of Kremlin, Oklahoma. So a very dangerous storm that's in progress, moving to the northeast. Once again, if you are in this warning, you need to seek shelter immediately, away from windows and on the lowest floor possible in an interior room of your home or building. Once again, tornado now officially confirmed by radar, and it is wrapping up like crazy. This could very easily be a strong tornado as it continues to move to the northeast.
A new tornado warning has been issued.
Yeah. This is a strong tornado. This could go PDS. Once again, very strong couplet. We got a deep CC drop. This is 100% a tornado in progress. It's going to be approaching Pond Creek over the next few minutes. Unfortunately, we have a final exam in a few minutes, so I cannot cover this entirely. But again, if you are in Hillsdale, Kremlin, Pond Creek, Jefferson, or Medford, you got to seek shelter away from windows, the lowest floor possible. This is a confirmed tornado. More than likely, this is a strong tornado. It could be large as well. It's moving northeast. And also, by the way, that other storm just got a new tornado warning north of Manhattan, Kansas. But that is a more than likely strong tornado, and that'll probably go PDS. So, again, if you're in Hillsdale, you got to seek shelter away from windows and on the lowest floor possible. And then also Pond Creek, you've definitely got to seek shelter. This is just north of Enid, Oklahoma. I'll stay here for one more scan, and then we'll have to go. What's the status by Pond Creek? You've got to seek shelter. We got a potentially at least strong tornado, but perhaps large tornado coming toward you right now. It's a dangerous storm moving northeast. Also, Ryan just went live, just an FYI. So if you need live coverage on this, he's live. I'm going to wait one more scan, though, and then we'll go. But this will probably go PDS by the time the next radar scan comes around if this continues. That's a very strong hook echo and a very impressive storm right now on radar, moving northeast. All right, new radar scan just came in. There might be weakening here. But the CC, I think, is still showing a deep debris ball. We still got debris being lifted up into the atmosphere here. So, once again, if you are in Pond Creek, Medford, Jefferson, or Kremlin, you've got to seek shelter away from windows, lowest floor possible. Once again, I have got to go take a final exam. I'll try to be back as soon as possible, so stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed down below. Click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live next. If you need live coverage, there are people live on YouTube. Look up severe weather coverage, and you can go find severe weather coverage elsewhere. Unfortunately, I cannot control taking my exam, so I have to go take it. Again, I'll be back probably in about 2 hours or so, maybe sooner, maybe later. We'll see. Depends on what happens and also how long my exam takes. So again, we'll see you guys all again soon. Click the bell icon down below so you're notified when I go live, and also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And if you need a weather app for today, you can download Radar Omega with the top link in the description below. All right, we'll see you guys all again soon. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back probably in about a couple hours. So subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, links in the description, and also follow us on Discord. And once again, tornado on the ground heading towards Pond Creek, Oklahoma. If you need live coverage, it's on YouTube. All right, we'll see you guys all again soon.